Rich Wyatt, the new chair of Colorado's Jefferson County Republican Party, the state's third largest county GOP organization, is famously a convicted felon. He went from police chief to major reality star to 3 years in prison, where he had to fight for his life. Rich joins us in studio to discuss his roller coaster life, survival in prison, and Republican politics. Hit it, George.
Welcome to Wayne's World, rising above the noise and confusion.
It's WaynesWord.
Oh.
You ever hear a story that makes you sit up and think, if he can do it, why not me? Scott Riopel built his life from scratch. No handouts, just hustle. Now he runs Interstate Roofing, part of the One Solutions family, and he's showing others the path out. If you're ready to change your life, follow him on Facebook and Instagram at big_Scott303. This isn't just roofing, this is a way up. At Integrity Bank and Trust, integrity is more than a name. It's a way of doing business. My family does business there, and I can tell you they are the friendliest and easiest we have worked with over decades as entrepreneurs and small business owners. Integrity's expert and friendly personnel offer home loans, treasury management, personal banking, and other services for every stage of life. Integrity puts customers first, living up to its name. Welcome, Rich, to this episode of Wayne's Word. It's really good to see you again. It's been a long time. We have with us today Rich Wyatt, who was recently elected as chairman of the Jeffco Republican Party, but he's best known as the star of the extremely popular American Gun TV show before he became a political prisoner because of his political views and spent 4 years in federal prison for that. And we're going to talk about that, and we're going to talk about a lot of other stuff. He's a very interesting fella and a good friend, and he was my defensive gun trainer, what must have been 20 years ago.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's a long time.
Not quite 20, 15 to 20, somewhere in between there.
Oh, your kids were little.
Yeah, they were.
Now they're full-size adults.
The one who produces this show and is 30 years old was a child.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and you got to meet all of them. This was tremendous gun training. Whereas I've been to other weapons coaches, and they teach you how to hit the target in the center, and that's just great, except not Rich. Rich is like, the most important thing is you be able to deploy that gun in less than a second.
Yeah.
And from your holster and put it back.
Yeah.
And if you can't do that, there's no sense walking around with a concealed weapon and a carry permit or any of that. And so I remember one training session, bring 1,000 rounds, and you're not going to shoot a single round that you don't pull that gun out of your holster and reholster it. And it became muscle memory. And I'm so thankful that I had Rich for a gun coach, trainer, whatever you want to call him, instructor, because I know how to use a weapon as opposed to simply carry one. So thank you for that, Rich.
Oh, it's my honor. Colonel Jeff Cooper was my mentor in the firearms industry, and he is the number one top guy in the world. To this day, he passed away in 2006. And he told me when I was young and I started out, he said, Rich, you're never going to get fortune or fame from this industry. But what you'll get is the reward of your students coming back like you just did, and thank you for the skills you taught them. Well, I hate to say it, Colonel Cooper is a strong mentor to me, but he was wrong. I did get fortune and fame from it, and it was a very unique opportunity. But the most important thing that I got out of that was things like that. People like you that have actually had to face the elephant, had to defend themselves, and use the gun. Now, a lot of people don't understand this, but just the mere presence of a highly skilled individual with a firearm stops threats that people weren't even aware was a threat, because the bad guys sense that guy is not the right guy to mess with, and they walk away. And I'm sure there's been times with your beautiful wife and your family, and you're walking around that, all of a sudden somebody looked at your family and said, that's not the guy. And they just walked away because you have an aura about you from what you just said, that 20 years ago you took a class where you learned how to protect yourself. And that's what we teach is self-preservation and protection over target shooting. Who cares if you can hit a target? Can you hit a pie plate at 25 yards? You're good to go for self-defense. The most important thing is getting that gun out and getting it used. And the thing that's even more important than that is the mental preparation and mindset to be prepared to say, aha, there's a problem right there. And the best thing for me to do is take a left.
Yeah.
And walk away from it and protect my family.
Well, that's what I've found when I carry concealed is whereas I might be aggressive in traffic or you get upset if somebody cuts me off, when I'm carrying,
I'm a nicer guy.
I'm a nicer guy.
Yeah,
I don't ever want to have to pull that gun. And as you taught me, if you're pulling the gun, it's to use it.
Well, I agree with you 100%, and I'd like the listening audience to think of that because if you see me now, I'm a felon, so I don't have a gun, so I will hurt you.
Yeah,
if
you can't be a nice guy now, can you?
I cannot be a nice guy. I got to get you fast and hard.
I wouldn't mess with you.
Well,
Rich.
And if they got a gun, I hate to say it, but if I had to protect myself from somebody, I guess I'd have to get it. But it's it's that total mental preparation, and I'm mentally prepared. I got to admit, it's nerve-wracking getting out of prison and not being able to carry a gun. So I carry an assault dog. And I have this German Shepherd that loves the taste of human beings. And so, and you know what she loves more than that is protecting myself and my family. And so, if you step up to one of my daughters and she's standing there, you better have everything right with God.
Yes. And I tell you, you and I both reside in Colorado.
Yes.
And when I moved here from Washington, D.C., which at the time was a hellhole of crime,
yeah,
much more so than it is now.
Yeah.
1992, and my wife is a Colorado native, so I met her there and we moved back here. There was very little crime. Even when I was taking instruction from you, there was very little crime. That is not the case in Colorado anymore. This is the second most dangerous state in the union, which is incredible to me, as rated by U.S. News and World Report. Last year we were third, so it's getting worse.
Yeah. Because
of the laws that the legislature, they've decriminalized every hard drug, bringing in every drug dealer from around the world wants to be here. We're a sanctuary state, and we've decriminalized serious crimes like car theft was basically decriminalized until we became the number one car theft state in the nation, and then they cracked down on that a little bit.
Well, as you know, I moved here from the East Coast, too, in 1981, New York and Connecticut. And I moved out here to go to gunsmithing school, and I started out in gunsmithing school. My dad told me, don't go to gunsmithing school, go to college, get a degree. I couldn't do it. It wasn't on the list of things for me to do that day. And so I moved out here. I joined the Wheat Ridge Fire Department, became a fireman, became a captain there. And, that's when I really started learning about people and what's going on. But at that time, as you mentioned, in the 80s, we had no crime. People said, hey, be careful of the traffic. I said, where? And they said, at the Mousetrap. I said, you mean where I-25 and I-70 intersect? Traffic? You think you got traffic there? No. They actually thought that, because you had to slow down to 80, there was some traffic, there was nothing. And so, then I'd failed the test at the fire department. They made me a cop, and I did that for a long time and I left the fire department as a captain. I left the police department as chief of police. And, it was a great time. But I learned so much, but I couldn't imagine today being in law enforcement because you're not allowed to do your job. And the job that we did back then was phenomenal. And some of the things that we did back then, what I would tell you are excellent police work that stop crime in its tracks and make criminals realize this is not the place that we're going to commit this crime today with those people watching right there, is gone. And because of the defund the police movement, the Black Lives Matter, the Antifa, the leftists, all the people that want communism to be the leading authority here in the United States of America, we have lost so much. And it's going to be very hard to get it back because people don't understand what it's like to be an American. It takes a little hard work. You got to get up every day. You got to do your job. You got to get a little dirty. You got to get in and grind. Your kids didn't grow up with not eating a little dirt, not getting in a fight, not getting in. But now everything, the stuff that we need to be Americans is now criminalized. And the things that we don't need, like stealing cars, is not a crime anymore. That's crazy. Kids fist fighting on a school.
Or it's a very low-level crime. If
Well,
it's a crime
it's
at
such
all,
a
yeah.
low level, you can't get anybody to pay attention.
Right.
And
The
if-
risk-reward factor favors the risk.
Right. And I watched it yesterday. I was in a Walgreens yesterday on Federal and 2975 Federal Boulevard in Denver. And I'm literally standing there and I watched a couple, not a gang, a couple, a husband and wife, pick up stuff, and they didn't even try to sneak out. They walked right past the register with an armload of stuff. Like an idiot, I followed them out there and was yelling at them, and another guy was helping me, and they did not care. They did not care. Now,
The store didn't care, did they?
the
Because
store cared. Even the store people followed
Okay.
them out, which I probably shouldn't say because they could get fired for that.
Right.
But the store was furious about it, but it's accepted now. That when I was a kid, you'd have got beat up. You'd be in the parking lot, beat up, black and blue, all beat up.
if you did that now, you'd be the one going to jail.
And that's why I couldn't put hands on them.
Yeah.
Because I would have taken the stuff back and put hands on them. But I witnessed the thing that I thought was the most disgusting of things that you would see. Husband and wife, or, I don't know what they were. I mean, maybe they don't believe in marriage, but a man and a female, and they were taking diapers, so they probably got kids, right? And he left her there with me and this other guy and crossed Federal Boulevard and left her alone. And I gave him some choice words and told him what I thought of him. I said, what a weak-minded coward you are that you walk away from this girl and leave her there with us. You are nothing but a...
That's Rich not walking around without a gun.
That's without a gun. Yeah.
I walked up to Home Depot about 3 weeks ago here in Monument, which is a small mountain town. There's 2 cops and a couple of employees and a customer standing there talking about someone who just walked out with a pallet full of a lot of stolen merchandise, expensive stolen merchandise. And I'm overhearing the cop say, listen, you did the right thing. Everything in the store can be replaced. And these guys may have guns. A human being can't be replaced. But everything in this store, and he's giving them this lecture about how passivity is the right way. And I'm thinking, I have to pay for that.
That is the biggest bunch of bullshit that ever existed. And that is the problem. You would have never heard me say that to these people as a cop. I mean, I get it. They're not maybe trained. They're not skilled in these things. But we can't be passive. Passive is what allows communism to thrive. I've been to communist countries, Cuba, and seen what's going on and how those people live. I don't want to live like that. I don't want to live in fear of a totalitarian government that's going to come in and scoop me off the street and take me away. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm so excited that President Trump and Tom Holman are relieving us of the criminals that we face every single day. Because these folks I saw yesterday stealing stuff, they sure looked like they didn't belong in this country.
Yeah, and we have welcomed. We have Denver as a sanctuary city. Now there's 40 to 50,000 new, mostly Venezuelan immigrants that have come in the last 2.5 years.
Yeah.
A lot of them are very nice people who want to start a small business and work hard, and a lot of them are criminals, hardcore criminals. We had them.
We had
more video just this week of Venezuelan prison gang members taking over yet another apartment in Aurora, and the video shows them holding all of these guns and everything. And this time there's a handgun being pointed at something or someone.
I get sick of that saying that they're nice people. I mean, I know people that have met pedophiles that said they're nice people. Pedophiles are not nice people.
No.
They play nice people. They act like nice people sometimes, but they do terrible things. So when you break the law coming into this country, you are never a legal person in this country. There is a way to get into this country, a passage to get here legally. I myself, people think, Republicans are so against immigration. No, we're not. See, they've changed the word. They're not migrants. They are illegal aliens that have unlawfully entered this country. And that needs to be addressed. And they were invited in by Joe Biden or whoever was running his mouth that day, because it's not him, because he doesn't know what time it is or where he is. And we've got to stop that. We can't let the left redefine words. Those people are illegal aliens.
Yeah, and that's what the federal government calls them in writing, is illegal aliens.
Right.
They don't call them immigrants or migrants. But the media, the Associated Press style book won't let you use aliens.
Right. Well, great.
So the media culture doesn't use that.
And the media doesn't run this country. No. The media is there to serve us. We're not here to serve the media.
It used to be, even going back to Reagan, and he was pretty soft on immigration himself. He said all Mexican immigrants are inherently Republicans. I don't know if that was true, but that was, he said that. And that was a different time, and mostly we had migrant farm workers coming in.
Listen, Wayne, let me
but you got deported back then if you were discovered, if you got a traffic ticket. Now we're not only not deporting them, we're spending millions, tens and 20 and hundreds of millions nationally to support them.
They're flying around the country with government tickets, with credit cards that the government gives them to spend when they get there. We're spending millions and millions of dollars putting them up in hotels that I can't afford to stay in.
Right.
Okay? And that's not okay with me. I'm sorry. It's not okay. And Reagan was right. Immigrants are good people that vote Republicans. Illegal aliens are scumbags that didn't come to this country to do the right thing. They came for a free lunch, and we're tired of giving away free lunches, and it's got to be stopped. And that's why the crime rate's going down in the U.S., because Tom Holman, who I just had the opportunity to meet a couple weeks ago in Washington, D.C., what a guy. I mean, this is a real-life rock star. He just stands there and spits out bullets and tells you how it is. I mean, he is unbelievable guy. If you don't love Tom Holman, you're not an American.
Stop mincing words. That's really bothering me.
Well, I have trouble with that. I'm the only guy I know who talked my way into prison.
That's right.
Yeah.
No, we've got the mayor of Denver who's like, arrest me. I'll stand up for the immigrants. Arrest me. I would just love to see
that's the only
Mayor Michael Johnston up against Tom Homan.
Well, that's the thing that Tom and the mayor of Denver are in agreement with. Tom is happy to arrest him, and he wants to get arrested. So I can't wait for the meeting. It's just going to be fantastic because I know what the end of the picture is. Holman goes to jail. I mean, Holman takes Johnston to jail, to federal prison, and then he can get a little wake-up call and see what that little room looks like.
That's right, because this is a guy who grew up in Vail with a silver spoon in his mouth. He's an Ivy Leaguer, and he doesn't have any idea what prison is like, unlike you. You know exactly what it's like, and we'll talk a little bit about that.
Wait till he gets in there, Wayne, and he finds out what those illegals that are in there are going to do to him. He's going to have a little different attitude about that when he gets out.
Yeah. Let's talk about your show,
okay,
which I watched every episode. Everybody I know watched every episode.
Well,
it was incredibly popular. Called American Gun on Discovery Network.
Discovery Channel, yep.
Discovery Channel.
Right.
And tell us a little about the show. I remember when you were my gun instructor, you always talked about, I collect these corks from wine bottles, and I'm going to use them someday for something, probably targets, And so I start watching the show, and all of a sudden there are bags and bags of wine bottle corks, and you guys would shoot them, and they'd go flying all over the place. That was kind of cool. But tell us more about this show.
Well, the show was awesome. American Guns on Discovery Channel. It was a show about our business, Gunsmoke, in Wheat Ridge, Colorado, and the main people in the show were my wife, my son, my daughter. And we had two other daughters that had cameo appearances, but they were very small, and they couldn't really be in it. And it was a wonderful show, bringing people from all over the world in a relationship with firearms that they weren't used to. See, because on TV, guns are demonized or used in a bad way, and we showed them as a normal American family using guns in a proper and safe fashion that highlighted what an excellent and wonderful tool, piece of art, sport, enjoyable collector's item all these guns are. And they're all that balled up in one. You take a gun, and I got guns, I had guns, I should say, that you could hang on the wall that were a work of art, but you could take it off the wall and defend your family with it. And so it's a multi-purpose tool. It's the original multi-purpose tool. And you can open up a can of oil with it, just like you can a multi-tool. It makes a little more of a mess, but the can will certainly be open. So on TV, we got to shoot everything, blow up everything at the end of every episode, and we had a great time. It showed us, buying, selling guns, building guns. The most difficult part was getting that show on TV because the liberal media had a feeling that guns are evil. And it took a long time to get them to see that it wasn't and to buy that show. So it actually took me about 10 years of work to get that show on television.
How'd you do it?
Well, I went and met with the people that had the motorcycle shows, American Chopper and the Chopper Build-Off, Billy Lane, Jesse James, the Tuttles. And I went and spent time, and I said, how did you get the show? Because that's the easiest way to find out something. Somebody's already done it, been successful, talk to them. And they laid out the foundation, and so I went and presented it. We made a sizzle reel, which is just a little compilation of what the show might look like if we ever made it. And I worked hard at it for years and years, and then I made a terrible mistake, Wayne. One day, after such diligent work, I was kind of mad about it not being on TV. And they called me up, one of these producers. So there's 3 people involved in a network television show. There's the network that airs the show. There's the production company that produces the show. And there's the talent that is on the show. And so a production company called me and said, hey, we've got a bid from Discovery Channel, and they want to do this gun show. And I said, oh, great. Now, I've been pitching it forever. And I was like, fantastic. They're finally calling back. And I said, what's it going to be called? And they said, it's going to be called Sons of Guns. And I said, well, that's a stupid name, and I don't like it because you're trying to tie it to Sons of Anarchy, which was popular at the time, and make it gang-related. And guns are apple pie and Chevy trucks in America, Yeah. And so they said, well, you don't get to decide the name of the show. And I said, sure I do. And I hung up the phone. And I expect them to call right back and say, okay, we'll do what you want, blah, blah, blah. Well, that didn't happen. And so my son and I are sitting on the couch watching American Chopper one night, and all of a sudden this ad comes up and it says, watch Sons of Guns in October from Baton Rouge, Louisiana, with a guy that we won't even mention his name because he's such a scumbag. And I couldn't believe it. And I thought to myself, oh my goodness, what an idiot I am. They actually made that show. Well, we watched the show because, of course, it's a gun show, and I love guns. And we watched the show, and it was really embarrassing because this was a family of people that didn't know anything about guns, didn't know how to shoot them, didn't know how to build them, didn't know anything really about guns. And it was kind of embarrassing. So we watched the show, and about 2 or 3 episodes later, I get the call from them, and they said, you know what? And I said, what? And they said, you were right. This is our highest rating stuff, this guns. People love guns. It's unbelievable to us. What do you want to call your show? And so that launched us into a show, and Discovery Channel bought it. And normally they buy 1 episode. They try it out. And they bought 4 episodes, which gives you almost a guarantee of success if you're good, right? Mm-hmm. And so even before the 4 episodes came out, that's the most amazing thing. This woman her name was Eileen O'Neill. She was president of Discovery Channel. And we got a call. We hadn't aired a show yet. We hadn't finished a show yet. And we got a call, and they said, she's coming out to visit you at Gunsmoke. And I said, oh, great. They said, no, this is weird. And I said, what do you mean? She goes, she doesn't know your name till you've been on 2 seasons. And I said, what? She won't. Something's up here. So they immediately flew out some producers, and everybody started getting ready to roll. And she shows up, and she comes in, and her and I, Wayne, we were polar opposites. She's a wonderful, nice person. Very, very. She has a different lifestyle than my wife and I do, and she came in, and she's a far left-leaning liberal. And she was all dressed up, and she said, is there somewhere I could change? And I said, yeah, go in my office. Now, my office is littered with guns. I mean, you could hardly walk through the...
I saw it.
Yeah. The desktop was covered with guns. And when Discovery came, I said, I'm going to clean this up. They said, leave it. This is perfect. This is exactly... We want real, And so she walked in, she came out, and she said, okay, well, now I feel better. I'm in casual clothes and, ready to go. And I said, okay, have you ever fired a gun before? And she said, no, I got some questions. I want to talk to you guys about some things. I said, nice. After you fire a gun, we'll answer some questions. And she said, what? I said, yeah, I'm going to take you downstairs. I've got the first handgun I ever fired. It was a Colt Scout 22 single-action revolver, nickel-plated with walnut stocks. I took her downstairs, and I gave her the safety rules, which I'm sure you remember, 4 of them. Yep. And I hope all your kids know them. And
they do.
Yeah, I believe you. And so I went downstairs and had her fire this little revolver. And the smile on her face, you could have knocked it off with a bat. And she loved it. And it was such a cool thing to see somebody that disliked guns walk into a place packed with guns and walked out thinking, that was kind of cool. And so we went and had lunch, and we sat down and we talked about things. And everybody was nervous, like they were going to fire us before it ever got started, And we got done with lunch, and she realized a couple things. Like she said, now this is you're a third generation gunsmith in your family, and I said, no. Where'd you hear that? And she goes, oh, it was on the sizzle reel. I said, oh yeah, they told me all that stuff was crap, and it was just a thing to sell it, but that's not real. She goes, really? She goes, I go, no, I did this. I built this myself, from the ground up. And she said, oh, great. So we went and sat down, had lunch. She got done after our whole family and stuff. And she said, you know what? You guys are better than the sizzle reel. This show's going to really go. And then we got a message back, and they said, bump it to a 1-hour show. And, when you can hold an audience on a TV show, regular reality TV show for an hour, you've accomplished something. And of course, that's what we did. And we had people come from all over the world. Wayne, you were with us before TV. And so you see that we were the same on TV as we were before.
Exactly.
TV.
Exactly. And I remember when Dee Dee and I were taking instruction from you.
Yeah.
We went out onto the Eastern Plains to a shooting site. And she said, Rich is really a dynamic guy. He's got a great personality, and he's fun to be around. He ought to have a reality show.
Yeah.
And she was going to try to put that in motion. And before she could ever do that, all of a sudden you had a reality show.
Well, what a great gal. I mean, and I appreciate the thought. But, what we did through that, and our goal was to bring people to see guns in a positive light, because TV just shows them as negative,
Right.
in so many ways. Everything's, it's all war and guns and violence, and, the words go together, and they don't. Guns stop violence. Guns in America keep other countries from invading us every single day. There's somebody out there right now thinking, if we took over America, think what we could have. You think we could do it? No, you could never do it, because what was his name that said there's a rifle behind every blade of grass? They think that. When I travel overseas, people think, so you guys, everybody carries a gun everywhere they go. And you know what I say to them? Yes. Even though I know it's a lie. I wish they did. I wish everybody carried a gun every single day, everywhere they go. Now that I don't have the right, I realize even more so than I did before, and I was adamant about it before, that every American should be carrying a gun every single day. It's like American Express. Don't leave home without it.
We would have no crime. We would not have mass shootings at schools and in shopping malls and every gun-free zone that every one of these predators has attacked over the years, particularly here in Colorado. We have a very high rate of massacre incidents.
Yes, we're the founders of the feast.
I live in a mountain village. We're a Second Amendment sanctuary town in a Second Amendment sanctuary county. And I go to a church where disproportionately, we're close to the United States Air Force Academy.
Uh-huh.
I go to a church where a disproportionately high number of parishioners are either active duty military officers or retired military officers. And I think that church is not vulnerable in the least. Nobody would get off more than a shot or two before someone would put a stop to it. And I wish that all environments were like that.
I do too. So the beauty of that is that it's a known thing. And so nobody's going to bother you because the bad guys are looking for the liberals.
Yeah, this is the last place to come and commit a crime.
Yeah, when you got purple hair and a nose ring and you got tattoos that say Trump sucks, the bad guys know to rob you, and that's fantastic.
And you're running a 7-Eleven late at night.
Unfortunately, those liberals don't have enough money, so they eventually got to come up and rob us conservatives, which have a couple of bucks. And so it creates a problem because they get used to, a higher level of, they'd rather have a steak than a cheeseburger. And so, when we're armed, it creates an armed society is a polite society. People don't flip you off in traffic if they think everybody's armed. People don't cut you off. They say, hey, come on in, and we should treat everybody better. We should be more respectful. As you said earlier, I taught that. I'm sure I taught it in your class. When I'm unarmed, I'm not as nice.
That's the way I am.
And because but when I'm armed, I know I got to be nicer.
I'm the nicest person in the world when I'm armed. I let things go. I'm not going to get in some petty argument that may lead to me having to pull that gun. Never.
Yes,
but if I'm not armed, I'll get into it. I'll get in your face if you
Yeah.
You know, because I know that I'm not at risk of pulling a gun and having to use it, which is the last thing on earth I ever want to have to do against another human being.
But unfortunately today we need to be armed because everybody's got a knife or something, and
Yep.
you know, and if 5 guys attack you, Wayne, unfortunately we're the old men now, and so when we walk down the street, you know, we don't have the power. You know, I think Toby Keith said it best: "I'm not as good as I once was, but I'm good once as I'll ever be." And so. We got a lot to do, and our job is to train the kids to come up and be strong Americans. We're losing hunters in Colorado. This used to be a big hunting state, and we get less hunters every year, and that tells you something. That's a statistic that people don't look at. When I see the hunters start to drop off, I realize we are losing what America's made of. Your wife picked you because you're a hunter. Whether you hunt or not doesn't matter. You're that guy that's going to go out and provide for your family.
That's right.
And that's what a hunter is somebody that goes out and provides for his family. And that's what women want. They want a man that'll take care of them, that'll help them, that'll protect them and be there and put his life in harm's way to protect him. And, you know, that's what we got to do. And that's biblical.
Dee Dee and I have 6 boys, all young men now, and we brought them up all that way.
Yeah.
They don't have any trouble finding good relationships with good women.
Yeah.
Because honestly, that kind of man is hard to find these days. And as far as hunting in Colorado, we've regulated that out of existence with this heavy ammo tax and trying to purchase a gun in this state.
It's a nightmare.
Is an ordeal.
It's a nightmare.
Yeah. Even if you're perfectly clean, you have no criminal history whatsoever, it's an ordeal. And it's expensive.
Only affects law-abiding citizens. Criminals don't care. They don't buy guns, they steal them. And until people understand that, we keep building more laws, thinking adding more laws. Look what's happened as we've added these laws. It's so crystal clear. Even a liberal's got to be able to see this. We've added all these laws to stop people from buying guns. We have far more violence and crime in Colorado now than we used to. I wonder what it could be that caused that. Maybe it's because we legislated law-abiding citizens out of self-defense. We've watered down the concealed carry law in the state of Colorado. Our law, when we passed it, and I was myself and another guy named Dudley Brown were 2 critical individuals that got the concealed carry passed in the state of Colorado. And Dudley will be rolling over, you know, in his bed tonight if he hears this, because he wanted constitutional carry. And I said, let's just take permits and then we'll work on constitutional carry after that. Because I agree with constitutional carry. It's just philosophically harder to get passed.
Right. It exists, but the state doesn't recognize it.
Yeah, but a lot of other states have adopted it now. When we started, it was just Vermont. You know, and then it just started to grow and grow. And so, look,
Vermont is a very liberal state, yet it's a very pro-gun state, pro-Second Amendment.
And one of the safest states to be in because of the Second Amendment attitude there, and people are carrying guns in its country, you know. And people say, oh, well, you can't compare it because it's a big city and big cities have different problems. Wrong. Look at Miami, Florida. Compare that to Detroit, Chicago, Los Angeles, New York. All these places where crime's on the rise and people are getting killed. Well, Miami's just as big, more culturally diverse than any of those other cities, and their crime rate's lower because their governor's doing the right thing. The South White House is at Mar-a-Lago, and you know the Trump family moved there, and the conservative bastion that's down in Florida is taken over, and we have a state down there. I mean, Idaho and Florida are probably the 2 best states to live in the United States right now.
And Miami's one of the best big cities, if not the best to live in. And it's heavily populated by legal Cuban immigrants who escaped communism. Right. And they carry guns because they know what a totalitarian state looks like. And they know what could stop it.
They know. So the show, you know, opened up doors for us that would never have been opened if we didn't have the show. It got me on Fox News, you know, regularly contributing with them, you know, going on the air, being on the curvy couch, the whole family sitting there, you know, and talking about how cool this was, and, you know, multiple times. And, you know, we just had a great time. Got to meet wonderful people, you know.
It also landed you in prison.
It did.
And we'll talk about that a little bit. I have another friend who had a high-profile gun store. Maybe not as high profile as yours. It was never on TV, but he had a radio show. He started his gun store in the Soldier of Fortune headquarters in Boulder. And he ran the store out of there, and then he eventually moved it to Main Street in Longmont. You know who I'm talking about?
I do. I do.
Bob Glass.
Bob Glass.
Yeah.
Yep.
And Bob, good guy, he actually his gun store ended up on the Southern Poverty Law Center's anti-Semitic hate groups list. And Bob is Jewish, and the only reason that he ran a gun store and was such a Second Amendment advocate is because he grew up on his grandma's lap looking at pictures of dead relatives who died in the Holocaust in the gas chambers. Yeah. And
he got himself on Bill Maher.
Yeah, that's right. I remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a fun show.
Yeah.
Bob was targeted because he had this radio show, and he was such a dynamic person. You'd walk into his store, and he had great music playing. It was just a fun, cool place to be.
Yeah.
And one day there's a bag of drugs left in the stores, like cocaine, I believe it was. And Bob very quickly figured out he was being set up.
Yeah.
Federal agents soon came in. He got rid of he got rid of it because he knew what was going on. But they were unmerciful in trying to put Bob in prison.
Yeah.
Because he was popularizing the way you did gun ownership.
Yeah.
And he was a cool guy with a great message, and he was dynamic, and they came after him every which way. Now, nobody's seen Bob in 10 years. We don't know where he is. Even his best friends. I was a good friend. Can't find him. I've talked to his other good friends. Don't know where he is. But you had this show on TV that everybody loved, except the federal government didn't like it. The ATF didn't like it. So tell me how that played into you becoming someone who never hurt another person that I know of, becoming a federal inmate for 4 years.
Well, it was a long process. So I didn't know it was happening. I was running my mouth like Bob did. Bob was a loud mouth. Bob would yell at me. Mm-hmm. Bob thought I was a liberal. Like, can you imagine somebody that thought I was a liberal?
Bob was very outspoken. He never minced words.
He'd scream. And, all 3 feet of him would be standing there yelling at me. I said, I'm going to crush you like a bug, And, and I didn't have a gun shop. We weren't competing or anything like that. We were at separate times. But anyway, I said some things about a few guys that they belonged in prison for the murder of a Border Patrol agent by the name of Brian Terry. And Brian Terry was killed with guns that left this country, that were forced to be illegally sold by the ATF through gun shops to illegal people. They took the guns and put them over the border into Mexico. They came back across the border, and they killed this Border Patrol agent by the name of Brian Terry.
I remember that.
And those guys, the investigation started, and it was going up the hill and getting from guy to guy, and the next guy would pass the buck to the next guy, and it got to the top of the director of the ATF, and I think he was about ready to pass it off to the guys who were in charge, who authorized this ridiculous thing. And I said those guys belonged in prison. Those guys were Barack Obama, Joe Biden, and Eric Holder. And when I said that, they exercised executive privilege and shut the investigation down. Now, I went back on, I doubled down, and I said, hey, nobody would shut down an investigation unless they were guilty.
Now, what is the forum that you're saying this?
National news.
Okay.
All over, CNN, right. Fox. I was on everywhere, okay? Yeah. And so
I remember the story.
Yeah, so I said these things. Well, little did I know that spurred an investigation. And so what happened is the federal government, unlike with Bob, they didn't handle it as well as they do now. And so now they've got a methodical, slow policy of how they destroy you. So they come in and they just slowly start moving on you. And they come in and they start doing things, and they're behind your back, and they're checking into your bank accounts. They're getting everything in place. So when they pull the trigger, so to speak, and they come after you, they can shut you down immediately. So they take away your money. They shut off your credit. They take away your customers. They stop any income streams you got from coming in, and they destroy you. I'll give you an example. Smith & Wesson had a gun called the Wyatt Deep Cover, which I designed. It was a 5-shot 38 airweight revolver, one of the best concealed carry guns you can get. You can find them used and go buy one because they're worth every dime. And that was a lot of money that we got in every single month. Most families could survive off of that money alone at a comfortable rate. And the government went to Smith & Wesson and said, make one more of those guns, we'll shut down your company.
On what grounds?
They're the ATF, and they do whatever they
Do
want.
whatever they want.
They went to our banks and said, turn off their credit cards or else.
That happened to Bob. They wouldn't let him bank at a bank in Longmont. Now, I hooked him up with a friend of mine who was an attorney who'd been a federal prosecutor, Walter Lee Hill, sort of long-haired Indian guy.
Yeah.
And he was on the left of center.
Yeah.
But and they made a case. I don't know whether it's true or not. They made a case, look, you're discriminating against Bob, and since you won't tell us why, we assume it's because he's Jewish.
Right.
And he ended up getting a big settlement out of that.
Yeah.
And starting a magazine with the proceeds of that settlement. But they never stopped. It was relentless trying to destroy him.
No, they don't stop till they destroy you. And so, that's why I'm fortunate to hopefully be a success story right here, that I'm getting past this. But the federal government is brutal at what they do. Now, we're not facing that now because Donald Trump is in there and he's taking care of things and he's working stuff out. He's helping.
We're safe for the next 3.5 years.
Well, no, we're not safe yet because there are still people that work with inside the government that they have not been able to get to that cannot be trusted. Mm-hmm. And those people are still out there and they're still doing things that are terrible. I mean, look, they did it to President Trump. They can do it to any one of you.
That's right.
If you think they can't get you, you are foolish. They will come for you, and when they do, you will not be able to survive the encounter. And I say that. I survived. I got to the other side, but it wasn't easy, and the cost was more than I would ever be willing to risk. And so it's a very, very difficult thing. And what they're doing is they're silencing America. They want Bob Glass to be not to be found. They want Bob Glass to go shut up. They want you to not talk anymore. And that's what they're trying to do.
They don't want him on the radio.
They don't want
the last thing on earth.
They don't want him. They don't want him anywhere. And, anywhere. So he's gone. And they won. He didn't win. He didn't win. And so that's a tragedy. The bottom line is once they did all that stuff, then they came in and exercised a warrant. And normally when they exercise a federal warrant against a business, that business doesn't reopen because it's catastrophic. Well, I opened the next day and said, hey, the IRS came and we're having a sale. Come on down, get your guns, get your holsters, get your ammo, get your stuff. Let's go. We're ready to rock and roll. And that made them even madder. And so more time went by, and then the ATF came and exercised a warrant. And they came in and destroyed my store, totaled my store. Now, I got to tell you, when the IRS came, they broke the law. They exercised a search warrant on my place that was not a legal warrant. And they took stuff out of there illegally, and they used that stuff against me, and they're not allowed to do it. And anybody else would have been shut down by the judge. But the federal judge, I don't want to mention her name, her initials are Marcia Krieger, Chief Justice Marcia Krieger. Yeah. And she and her little minion, the prosecutor, Sunita Hazra, they both went after me. And they allowed the federal government to get away with everything. And they said, oh, that's just a mistake. And I said, well, this is just a mistake. Oh, no, that's not a mistake. It's a crime. Oh, when they do it, it's a mistake. But when I do it, it's a crime. Is that right? What were some of the things they were accusing you of? They accused me of illegally selling guns, illegally transferring guns, stealing guns, conspiracy to illegally sell guns, conspiracy to do everything.
And you got nothing. They couldn't prove any of that.
Well, I was charged with conspiracy. One guy?
Yeah.
Conspiracy is talking with other people about committing a crime. Wouldn't that by itself lend itself to say that there has to be other people in the crime to make it a conspiracy? I mean, does that make any sense to everybody else out there?
Yeah.
Well, I was convicted of conspiracy. Not one other person. In federal court. Yeah. But I beat it on appeal. Okay. That was the only 2 crimes I got convicted of in federal court.
You just had to get it away from Krieger and this other.
Yes, yeah. I had to get it. And we proved in our appeal that Marcia Krieger and Sunita Hazra, the attorney and the judge, U.S. attorney and U.S. judge, lied to the jury in order to secure my conviction. The federal government agreed with that. Can you imagine? Now, why did they agree with that?
That's a mighty high hill to climb.
Why did they agree with it?
I'm not sure.
Trump was president.
Okay.
When they did it, Biden and Obama were president. Trump got in office, and the new people that were brought in said, it's just so crystal clear. It's just, President Trump is the greatest president we've had in the history of America. I'm talking about George Washington, Theodore Roosevelt, Abraham Lincoln, Ronald Reagan. Trump's better than all of them.
I'm a Reagan acolyte, and I think, and I will always be very thankful to President Reagan. He made me who I am philosophically, ideologically, politically, whatever you want to say. But Donald Trump has accomplished more in the first half year of this second term, I think, than Reagan did in 8 years. And Reagan did a great job.
He did a great job. And it's tough to compare the two because if you put Reagan in today with the knowledge that Trump had, then he probably would have done a great job too.
That's right. And the country was not this far gone when Reagan got into office.
The liberals made President Trump. When they stole the election from him and they cheated during the election, which there's absolute evidence of everywhere you want to look, okay? And the people that deny that there was a problem with the election, they're insane. Okay? Mm-hmm. Because when you watch Dinesh D'Souza's film and you see people riding up on bicycles at 2, 3 in the morning, dumping ballots in with gloves on.
It's right there on video.
In police work, we call that a clue.
Yeah.
Okay? And that means that something's going on. So when Trump got lost, and I'm thankful that they cheated. I appreciate the fact that they cheated.
Well, we're better off. These separated terms. He had 4 years to plan and to stew. And
he had 4 years to get pissed off and to go in like a dragon fighting with fire. And that's what he's doing now. I mean, look at these appointments. Are you kidding me? Kash Patel and Dan Bongino running the FBI. I almost trust the agency now. Okay?
Exactly.
And, you got Pete Hegseth at the Department of Defense. I mean, come on. These are warriors. These are people. This is what we want. This is what we need.
We had placeholders, even if they were dangerous. They were, more innocuous than anything. So many administrations have come and gone where you appoint someone secretary of this or that, and they don't do really anything. These people, like you say, are warriors. They have an agenda. And they know they have limited time to pursue it, and they're going full force.
They are. Wayne, those people were worse than that placeholder. I wish they were placeholders because they set us back. People like James Comey set us back because what he did was illegal. He tried to make that election come out. That
man is not well.
Yeah, he tried. He's such a disgusting vermin. And it's a terrible thing because he should be a short guy.
Again, stop mincing words on my show.
Yeah. I mean, he walks around like he's some type of, miniature person. And that's an offense to all the miniature people out there, so I apologize. Comey is a terrible human being, and he's just a bad guy. And he hurt the FBI. He hurt it bad. And, it's going to be recovered because some people got in there and taken care of it that care now. And all he cared about was he's a liar. Mm-hmm. He pretends he's a conservative Republican. He's not even close. He's just not even in the arena. And he did things to try to get Hillary Clinton elected. The FBI should be as far away from politics as you can possibly get. The director of the FBI should not be engaging in these things at all. Mm-hmm. And for him to come out and make statements like he did and say things he did. And look, the guy was such a weak-minded coward. He tried to blend in with a curtain in the Oval Office.
I saw that. Yeah,
Trump
the blue suit. Yeah.
Are you kidding me? The FBI director is hiding behind a curtain. Couldn't he find some lady's skirt to hide behind? I mean, what is wrong with this guy? That is when you're standing in the Oval Office, what person in there can't wait for the president to walk up and shake your hand? I mean, what person isn't looking forward to that? If you're not, get out of the room. Right. Get out of the room. Trump is our savior, and he wouldn't be able to do it if the Democrats didn't make. If he would have won in 2020, our country would have moved forward, but it would have been hard to get us back. He came in at the right time. Look, they all said he's never going to make it when he first threw his name in the hat. I knew he was going to win the second he came down that escalator. I said to myself, look at that guy. That's the guy right there. Is he the perfect human being? No, Jesus died on the cross. Okay. Does he have flaws? We all do. I've even heard I made a mistake once. And
I don't believe that. Come on, Rich.
So I know that Trump is flawed, but
Sure.
he's the best president we've ever had.
No, and in fact, people throw out, well, look, he's had bankruptcies and failures and he did this and that. Well, I don't want a leader who hasn't failed at some point in time because some of the best lessons in life, are getting up from failure and recovering from it, and you become a different person.
I wish I could enjoy the level of failure that President Trump has enjoyed.
Yeah, with his now $6 billion personal wealth.
Listen, first of all, he never filed bankruptcy. He had some companies that did not succeed. Okay, and the laws he used were the laws that the liberals passed to protect their buddies. And he used those laws to protect himself and to keep going. And I'm proud of him for that because that's what a successful guy does. He sees a hurdle and he goes over it, past it, around it, and keeps going, doesn't stop. And that's what he did. And he kept going and moving and made it happen. He never stopped. People said, if I had $2 million from my daddy, I could have done it. Wrong. The lottery is proof that is not what happens.
You'd burn through that in a year if you don't know what you're doing.
You give $2 million to an idiot, he's still an idiot. He's just a rich idiot for a while.
And then he's broke.
And then he's beyond
happens
broke.
all the time.
He's actually deep in debt. Yeah. They end up deep in debt because they don't understand what money takes. You don't understand when you buy a multi-million-dollar home, they don't understand what it costs to run a multi-million-dollar.
Whereas you have Elon Musk, and I know people have different opinions about him, but every dollar that he ever gets from the sale of a company goes into something that he's starting.
Right.
And I've seen more and more articles about him explaining, how after he sold PayPal, and he got nearly $200 million, he was personally broke.
Yeah.
It all went into SpaceX.
Yeah. He
had to borrow money to live on. His brother asked him for a loan. He has a restaurateur up in Boulder. He said, I don't have cash.
Yeah.
And yet he was becoming one of the richest men in the world at the time.
Listen, Elon's been on both sides of the fence. I couldn't stand him because PayPal was such a communist, anti-gun platform. You couldn't buy a holster. You couldn't buy a gun belt. You couldn't buy ammo guns. You couldn't pay for a concealed carry class with PayPal. So I immediately despised what he did and what he was doing and from that time. And I've never really gotten over that, to be quite frank with you. I'm happy that he came on board for a while and got going with Trump. And I'm happy that he apologized for saying some of the asinine things that he said about Trump, and this stuff. But that's just who he is. And when you put two egos in the room that are that big, it's hard for them to get out the door because it's not big enough. Right. And I'm not knocking them. I love those egos. I have an ego the size of a warehouse, and but it's what makes you who you are. And it's part of your platform of your life experience. It's the totality of that life experience. If the totality of my life experience was being a dumpster diver and living from day to day, then that's what I'd be. And there's no swagger.
You'd be good at it.
I'd be good at it. There's no swagger that comes with that. You don't get to be John Wayne. John Wayne back in the 70s made statements about the liberals that were just awesome. You ought to go back and listen to him. He's phenomenal at tearing these people to the basement, and he was a real American.
I worked with a fellow who was a fellow editor. I was the managing editor for a couple of years of Soldier of Fortune magazine in Boulder. And this guy, he made good money. Everybody at Soldier of Fortune made good money. But he always lectured me. He goes, you don't buy food. He had a Safeway near his home.
Yeah.
And there were dumpsters out back. And they, if a freezer went down, they'd just throw everything away. And they just were throwing away perfectly good frozen and refrigerated food.
Sure.
And, it'd get right up to the sell-by date, and they had new stuff come in, they'd throw it away. And he fed his family that way for years and was advocating everybody else do the same. I don't know if he ever got the book written, but he's going to write a book about it.
Yeah.
Now, I want to get back to your political imprisonment and what led up to it. But tell a personal story real quick first, and that is you want to talk about the weaponization of the federal government, of federal law enforcement. Dee Dee and I were she goes to Washington, D.C. frequently, usually at least twice a month.
Okay.
I go with her. She runs two NCOs out of Washington, but lives here, but goes in for meetings and stuff. And I was on a business trip with her, and we happened to be there on January 6th.
Oh.
She was asleep we have a place there, but at this time we were in a hotel room, but 3 blocks north of the Capitol on New Jersey.
Uh-huh.
She's asleep in the room taking a nap.
Yeah.
I'm in an editorial board meeting, and all of a sudden I can hardly hear this Zoom meeting that I'm in because sirens. I've never heard so many sirens in my life. I wasn't watching TV. I didn't know what was going on. One of the board members said, "Turn the TV on. You got to see what's going on." And I'm blocks away from this. And so I turn on the TV, and there's people climbing the walls of the Capitol and everything. So as soon as the board meeting ended, one of my supervisors said, I said, "Should I go down there?" He goes, "Yeah, get your butt down there, get some video and some photos and stuff. So I woke Dee Dee up. She didn't really want to go, but we went. And we stood on the east side of the Capitol, kind of outside of the crowd mostly. We did walk up toward the Capitol steps at one point. And I was there journalistically. I mean, that's indisputable.
Right.
I was actually asked to go there.
You were, yeah.
And she was there because I asked her to go along and help me shoot video with our phones and such. She ends up, not me, because, they weren't going to come after me because I clearly had an alibi for being there. She ends up the subject of an FBI investigation.
Oh, my
because
goodness.
people
saw her.
Yeah, well, she posted some pictures on Facebook and such, and it didn't go anywhere. The
Thank
FBI
God.
came and was on our front porch, and we talked to them. They want to look at her phone, and they actually, the on-the-ground agents were very kind.
Sure.
And they said, we actually apologize for having to, we just have to follow up on these things. We don't have any.
They were ordered.
But they had already been, already been
You know what?
investigating her phone calls and her social media.
The Nazi soldiers said they were following orders too.
That's right.
And you know what? Some of those guys should have said, no, I'm not doing it. These are Americans exercising a First Amendment right, and I'm not going to go and check up on every one of them. I'm sorry. They didn't do it for Antifa. They didn't do it for Black Lives Matter. They destroyed much more property. They did much more damage. They weren't invited in. The J6ers were invited in the building. Were there some people there that may have broken the law that were J6ers? Possibly. Okay. I did see some things that made me cringe a little bit. Where
Sure. There were some people who did some bad things that day. No question about it.
But I don't know they were patriots. They could have been Antifa peoples, stirring the pot. They could have been Black Lives Matter. I mean, these are people that have gone around the country and terrorized America. They've killed their own. They've killed other people have died. And we're going to talk about J6. Thank God you guys didn't get hammered on that.
Oh, yeah. And then we have this late 70s grandma in Colorado Springs known as the Praying Grandma, who was there praying, and she followed a crowd in that was being ushered in by law enforcement.
They let them in. I watched them open the doors.
That's right. She didn't do anything but stand there and pray and then left. And she ends up in an ankle bracelet for a couple of years, and she was facing prison.
Yeah, I've met her.
And we've got Hunter Biden,
yeah,
who hasn't been in an ankle bracelet, that I know of, who's not ever going to face prison because he's got a full pardon, and he committed serious crimes that hurt people.
Does he have a full pardon?
Well, he thinks he has a full pardon. That's right. Or was it an auto pen? Who knows?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I heard his was hand signed, which I wouldn't be shocked
I'm
by.
sure.
But I hope that President Trump repeals all the auto pen ones because that's not the way. It should be done, and that's not the way that it's acceptable. And if Joe Biden doesn't know who he pardoned, then he didn't pardon anybody.
So you beat the conspiracy charge, but you ended up in prison.
Yes.
And as far as I know, you didn't steal anything. You didn't hurt anyone.
So let me lay it out. I was charged with state charges for theft of people's guns. I never stole a gun from anybody in my life. Those guns were in the store.
You were a gunsmith.
I was a gun dealer.
And a gunsmith.
They were, yes, and a gunsmith. And they were given to me to be sold on consignment. And it's such an easy thing. And this one lady that was, and I use the term lady loosely, I should just call her a female. She's a terrible person. And she was the one they took up the cause, so to speak, for. And she had a gun that was a very collectible Colt Single Action Army 1873 revolver. It was serial number 37. But it wasn't, back then records weren't the same and things weren't the same. And it was actually ended up being made later and got restamped with the number they'd already used. And so it wasn't worth quite what she thought it was. And she was a pain in the ass to deal with. I mean, just a miserable, I rue the day that I met her. And she would not do the background check to pick the guns up. So I could not give the guns back to her. Couldn't do it. Okay. And that's federal law. I was complying with the law. They charged me with theft of her guns for not giving them back to her because I was complying with the law. So when they charged me that, they charged me with all that stuff on state charges. Okay. So I said, when I went to court in the very beginning, I said, Your Honor, I would like to go to court right now. Let's go. I'm ready by myself. Don't need a lawyer. I'm prepared to go. The DA? No, he's not ready. Okay, well then why'd you charge me? So what they saw was that I wasn't afraid because I knew there was no evidence available anywhere in the world to convict me of stealing somebody's guns. How could I have stolen it when you have it right now? It was in my store, available for sale, right?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't. Now, if they took and went home and found them hidden under my mattress, okay, you got me, right?
Right.
But that's not what happened. And so they used things that they knew were not against the law and charged me with crimes. And this was part of the destruction of Rich Wyatt. This is where they were saying, we're going to bring you down to zero so you can't fight us. And what they do, it's just like a fighter. You know, a good fighter might give you a few shots here and there and get you worn down, and then bam, throws that knockout after you've been beat up. And that's what they do. They tenderize you a bit, they get you all beat up, and then they hit you with that knockout punch. Well, they never got me with the knockout punch, but they've gotten many others. And so what happened was then they charged me with federal charges. Now, all the time this is happening, it's all being put on TV. Front page of the Denver Post, television, national news, you know, reality TV star goes to prison. He's going to go to prison. He's going to get locked up for 15 years. All this, you know, all this terrible stuff is happening. And I am fighting on every front. I am at a war by myself because they've alienated me from a lot of my friends and family. And they do that by going to people and telling them directly, we got Rich tied to the train tracks. Do you want to get on the train with us, or do you want to lay down on the tracks with Rich? Mm-hmm. Now, what's that tell you? You want to get killed, or you want to get up here and save your life? So some people got up there and saved their lives. You know, other people were rats, and they went in and tried to say stuff about me. Some of them said stuff about me, and when they got it, they were like, well, this doesn't hurt them. He goes, well, what else do you want me to tell you? Mm-hmm. You know, there's nothing else there. One of them that was not a rat was a good person that defended me. He got in, and they kept questioning him, and he said, listen, you want me to say something that didn't happen. I'm not going to do it. And they said, well, you're protecting him. He said, I'm not protecting him. You know what he said to tell you? And they said, what? He said, tell him the truth. It can't hurt us. It can't hurt us. The truth will set you free. But truth is not part of the justice system anymore. And that's the weaponization. That's where the judges, everybody thinks, you know, so-and-so got to trial and he got found guilty of this, so he must be guilty. Not true. The judges do not let what's called exculpatory evidence to prove your innocence into the courtroom. In the federal system, which is so corrupt, they don't even have to disclose everything they have. In the state system, you must give them every shred of evidence you have. And that gives the defense the opportunity to look it over and say, okay, we know what we have to defend against. We're prepared to go. And look at this one thing. It proves that this person's innocent. So all we do is show their own evidence and we walk away. But the federal system doesn't do that. They don't give you that evidence. They give you what they want. And they say, well, if there's anything exculpatory, we'll give it to you. Trust us. No, I don't trust you. You don't trust me? You think you want to put me in jail? I want to put you in jail too. Because when you serve a bad warrant, what's a bad warrant? The Fourth Amendment of the Constitution says that you have the right to search something if you're issued a warrant. Very specific. Is that right? Mm-hmm. Very specific to the place you search. So the address would be specific, right? My Gunsmoke building was two buildings that were at some point merged together. They were 9690 West 44th and 4370 Irish Street, right? So the front was 9690 West 44th and the back was 4370 Irish Street. And they were clearly marked over the doors. And you can see the clear separation of the buildings while you're inside it. The customers couldn't see it, but people inside could. The the IRS never had a warrant for 4370 Irish Street. Never, ever had one. Yet they took information and used it against me in a crime from a place that they were not given authority to search.
Whatever they called evidence should have been
fruit of the poisonous tree should have been excluded. And really, they should have been charged for not complying with the law.
And would a judge simply not go away with let your lawyer get away with,
the judge just said, I refuse to, that's the simple error. Okay, simple error. Well, my taxes were a simple error too then, because I didn't fill them out.
And that's what they got you on,
That's
right?
all they got, Al Capone.
Not filing, correct?
No, well, the not filing I did. I did that. I did not file.
Right,
okay.
But a lot of people file late or,
And I was in the process of repairing that. I got so busy with the TV show and stuff. And I got to admit, I haven't.
I guess that's a crime. But is it 4 years in prison?
No, nobody would ever go to prison for that. They're misdemeanors. And I don't, but the felony tax charge they charged me with, filing a false tax return, I didn't do. I hired an accountant. The accountant did the taxes. I signed where the accountant said, I don't know how to do them. I'm at a loss. I don't. It's over my head,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And so, we hired an IRS agent that said, a retired IRS agent, to look over the case, and he said, "Gosh, I look at this case. I don't know why they arrested you. I would have arrested the accountant." And I don't agree with that either, right? But I don't agree. Even if you look at people that have been convicted for filing a false tax return, go find some that went to jail.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Look, here's
Well, they like to take a high-profile person
Sure.
once in a while.
And people said, look at Wesley Snipes, high-profile person.
Martha Stewart, example of
Martha
someone.
Stewart didn't file a false tax return. Hers was a different thing.
They wanted everybody to know that this kitchen maven, this person who everybody looked up to for how to make a perfect household,
Yeah.
they wanted her in prison to scare the hell out of everybody.
Yeah, they use it as a tool to get people. And you know what? Mark Cuban was charged with a similar crime to her, but he fought it, cost him $100 million, and he won.
But he had $100 million.
But he had $100 million. Who's got? See, nobody. If I had the money, if they hadn't taken away all my money, if I would have had access to my assets that I owned, I would have beat them to a pulp. I would have lost nothing except for the misdemeanor charges of failing to file a tax return on time. And so that would be the only thing that they would have got me with. But I didn't have the money, so I couldn't do it. Nobody can. If you look at a felony case in a state case, it costs you about $50,000 to get good defense and to go in and fight it. That same case in federal court costs $500,000, $500,000, a multiplier of 10. Unbelievable.
90+% of people could never come close to coming up with that kind of money.
They can't get the 50 G's to fight the state case, right? And so, and they do it to you, and they know what they're doing. It's a strategic lawfare plan to get you out, to get you to go away. And most people just cave. They said to me, this is one of the famous statements they said to me. They said, "Rich, we have a 98% conviction rate. You have to take this deal or we're going to put you in jail for a very long time." And I said, "So you're saying I got a chance?"
2%.
That's right.
And you took that.
And I took it. And I won. And I beat, I don't know how many, 15 felony charges. They stacked the deck on you. And they're evil. I'm telling you, they are evil people. After it was all over and I was about to win my appeal, they came back and charged me with another felony of illegally selling a gun. And I said, "Hey, double jeopardy, bro. I already got charged with this and beat it in court." "Oh no, this is a separate gun." "Oh, sorry. There's a rule that you have to file the case at the time of the investigation. You can't save a charge back." And they violated that. And in the end, I pled guilty to it because I'd already been in prison for 4 years, and this was going to take another couple of years to fight this out. And I didn't want to stay in prison, so they cut me a deal. I had a 6.5-year sentence.
And what was the conviction specifically for the deal that you cut?
I pled guilty. I was not convicted. I pled guilty to a charge. In order to be released that day, I pled guilty to a charge of illegally selling a gun.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which
and I pled to that. But the judge made notice from the bench that it was not true, that I never did it, but I was only taking this plea deal to get out of jail. So they put
that happens all the time.
Yeah.
People plead to something they didn't do.
Right.
Just to get less time.
Yeah. And they put a gun to my head and said, "Hey, you want to get out of jail today?" Now, why did they do it? I just had a conversation because they record every call. I just had a conversation with my wife, and she said, "I can't take it anymore. You got to get out. I need your help." Well, I don't know what she thought I was going to do. Break out? That's it. I'm leaving. Okay. I'll go tell them at the front desk, and I'm sure they'll just let me right out of here. It'll be great.
My wife needs me.
Yeah. It's critical. I got to go. Now, the truth of the matter is, they destroy much more than the man that they put in prison. They destroy the families. They destroy the friends, the associates of that person. They destroy everybody they can, and they don't care. It's like the wake behind a boat. And so that wake spreads out.
Yeah, we're supposed to cry a river if they deport a criminal, illegal alien, because the wife and children are also injured by this.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you were a cop.
Yeah.
You were a firefighter.
Yeah.
And now you end up in prison.
Yeah.
What is that like? To be a law-abiding person who actually was in charge of upholding the law, and you end up 4 years behind bars in federal prison.
Well, first of all, you can't let them know you're a cop when you're in prison. If you let that out, if it gets out, and a lot of times it does. But I was fortunate because that was in my past. And there was a lot of present stuff. So the media attention was all on the TV thing. And so the other stuff had been pushed down and they couldn't find it. And the internet wasn't, big back then. And, so a lot of that fire
So they
service,
never found out while you were in prison that you had a background.
One of them did. One of them found out. And he said to me, I was in Denver City Jail. I was in Denver City Jail for a year.
Waiting to go to federal prison.
On a federal charge. Why am I in Denver City Jail? I should have been in a federal detention center just a few blocks down. They put me in there because they knew it was a greater risk to my safety and my health and to get me killed if I stayed in Denver jail than if I went to the federal prison and down in Englewood at Kipling and Quincy. So they left me there, and I'm in Denver jail, and this guy comes to me one day, and I told people I was a captain with the fire department because you got to have a story, And he came to me and said, hey, maybe I should call you chief. I said, what are you talking about? I was never chief. He said, I got a picture of you in your chief of police uniform. I said, no, you don't. I lied to save my life.
You were the chief of police.
Yeah, I know he's got a real picture. I know he's got that picture. And I'm petrified. He says, I got my wife mailing it in. And when it gets in here, you're dead.
So what'd you do?
I didn't sleep. And then there's a time when you can get up before everybody wakes up because they sleep in a little bit in prison. And you can go, and I went to the front desk, and I said to the guard, Denver Sheriff's deputy, get me this captain on the phone right now. And he said, you can't come up here and say that. I said, I just did, and you're going to do it. And he said, listen, inmate, I'm not doing that. You don't tell me what to do. I said, sir, call him and tell him I'm standing here talking to you, and he will tell you that he wants to speak to me. I'm not doing it. I said, do it.
Is this a former colleague you're trying to get him to call?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But he's a captain and he has a job to do, and this is the person I need to get to do it. So I go, he calls him and he says, send him down. I go down, I tell him what happened. He says, what do I do? I said, first of all, you pull all his mail. And so his mail, so that picture can't get in here. Second of all, because I've been thinking about it all night long. So I had the plan all.
You must have been sweating.
I didn't close an eyeball that night. I slept with what you call your lock in your sock. You put a lock inside your sock, and that's what you fight with when they try to come in to get you. And so he had told a bunch of people that, this, and I knew I was in a bad way. And, fortunately, one of the advantages that a white-collar criminal has when he goes into prison is that some of the inmates are not that smart. They think they're smart, but they're not that smart. They come up with amazing things. The ingenuity in there is unbelievable, but they are gullible, okay? And so they got street smarts, but they don't have a lot more. So I told them, and then you got to ship this guy to the old jail. So I went back and went to bed, laid down, like nobody saw me leave, and laid back down. And next thing you know, I hear they're calling him for him to get on the bus. He's leaving. He's going to the old jail, which is a terrible place to be in the Denver system. Nobody wants to go to the old jail out on Smith Road. And so he's like, I'm not going to the jail. I shouldn't be going to the jail. I'm not qualified. I didn't do it, blah, 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 blah. So when he went, everybody's like, I can't believe this is happening. I wonder what's going on.
Well, they're blaming you, right? Because he had told them you were a chief of police.
Well, he hadn't told them all. So what I did was, in my preparation and my strategy, I got up and said, well, they send snitches to Smith Road. They said, what? I said, he's a snitch. You remember that stuff he told you, that crap he told you yesterday? This is a snitch. This is a guy that's ratting all of you off and getting you more crimes. This is a bad guy right here. And they went, oh, that son of a bitch.
Good move.
It was the only move, right? Yeah. Now, did he get some trouble for what he did? Yeah, he did, and he went to a bad place. Do I care? No, I don't, because I was preserving my life. I can't stand that guy. I can't remember his name or I'd say it, but, he's just not worthy of a memory. But he's a piece of trash, and he did everything he could. You know what he was mad at me about? You know why he did all this stuff? He didn't like the Bible study I was teaching.
Really? That offended him?
That offended him. And, we baptized 33 men in the Denver City Jail in the year that I was there. We had a Bible study 3 times a day, 7 days a week. And we brought men to the Lord as the Lord commands us to do. And it was unbelievable, some of the stuff that happened. I could go on for days about stories about how God protected me in there and how God took care of me and how God used miracles inside the prison to let people come to Christ. And it was just that portion of it was the only grace that was in the room. But baptizing 33 guys in the shower in the Denver City Jail was unbelievable. And,
wow, in the shower, that makes sense. Running water.
It's all we had.
Yeah.
We couldn't submerge them. So we did the best we could. And, it was funny because when I went over and said to the deputies, I said, listen, and I didn't cause trouble in there. They knew I was a peacekeeper inside the jail. And I went to the deputy and said, listen, I'm going to baptize these guys over here. Nothing bad's happening. There's no fight. Nobody's getting raped. It's all on the up and up. And they said, you can't do that. I said, okay, I'm doing it. I'm just letting you know it's nothing bad. And, and we got by. But I will tell you one other story about that, Wayne. On Christmas Day in the Denver City Jail, they feed us our evening meal at 10:30 in the morning. And the reason they do that is all the guards in the kitchen want to go home. They don't want to work. So
you starve at night.
Well, no, they give us a sack lunch. They give us two sack lunch and a sack dinner, and they deliver it to us at 10:30 in the morning, and then they get to leave, and nobody's in the kitchen for the rest of the day. So that meal comes in. Honestly, of the crap that we're about to eat, it's the best crap that you're ever going to eat in the prison. It's the best meal you're going to ever have. Well, we all sit. We never leave the unit. There's 72 guys in the unit. And we all sit at these little four-top tables. And so I went over to the deputy that morning. I'd been there for just about a year. And I said, Deputy, is it okay if we push all the tables together and eat family style today? He said, you do whatever you want, Wyatt. I said, okay. So I started putting on my group of Bible study guys. We start putting all the tables together, and everybody starts coming around. And in prison, it's run by and divided by race. So you got your blacks, you got your Hispanics, you got your whites, and you got your Asians. And that's how it's split up. And, you don't mix, right? Without, following certain rules, you can. But it's definitely race divided. And there's a person that's in charge of the black guys in the unit, a person in charge of the white guys in the unit at Denver City Jail. They call it shot collar.
You get along with the guy who ran the white guy section?
I did.
Okay.
You know why?
No.
It was me.
I wondered about that. Yeah.
And I didn't.
You have leadership qualities, obviously.
Well, it was a stupid mistake. And I learned early on that was a mistake to have that. I didn't make myself the leader. I didn't ask to be the leader. It just naturally,
Well, you're not somebody who's inclined to segregate yourself based on the color of your skin. No, I know you better than that.
Definitely not.
But you have to.
Shockingly, the leader of the black car made me the leader of the white car, and I didn't even know it. And he told me, he said, no, you're it. And I said, no, I'm not. I'm not doing this. He said, it's already done. You're it. And then all of a sudden I looked back and I said, oh, shoot. And I realized what had happened. And it put responsibilities on me I didn't want. And I had to do things I wouldn't normally done.
Like what? You have to protect other people in your car, right?
Sometimes you got to beat them up, and you got to go in, and it's called a discipline.
Beat up the people who are hurting your people. So
if a white guy bothers a black guy, and the black guy takes it to the leader of his car, and he comes to you and says, you guys got to do a discipline against this guy, and if you don't do it, the blacks are going to attack you. All of you.
So you have to go in and discipline your own guy.
So we have to go in and discipline our own guy and take care of it, and that's hard, But
and you literally had to go in and beat the crap out of somebody.
Yeah.
That's got to be tough. I'm sure you're not one who enjoys getting in a brawl.
I do like to fight.
Yeah.
But I don't like to fight.
I do if I have a good reason.
I don't like to fight people that don't deserve it. Mm-hmm. And so this was very difficult, and we had to do other things.
Were you good at it? Did you ever lose a fight?
Anybody that says they didn't lose a fight has never been in a fight. And of course I've lost fights. And losing is not the issue. The issue is, especially in prison, the issue is, will you fight? See, if you don't fight, then you're marked, and you're what they call a bitch from there on out. Mm-hmm. And so it's not a matter of just winning. It's a matter of fighting. And if they see that you're willing to fight, then they'll leave you alone. And what I used to tell people, especially the young guys, when they'd come up and want to fight me for whatever reason it was, I'd say to them, listen, I'm happy to fight you, And the bottom line for you is, this is a lose-lose situation. What do you mean? I'm an old man with white hair. If you beat me up, you don't get any stripes. But if I beat you up, you're a bitch. And everybody's going to see that. So you want to take that risk right now? And they'd look at you and they'd go, never really thought of that. Mm-hmm. Now, you don't realize that.
You got to be smart. This is almost like a chess match in there just to survive.
I actually learned to play chess in prison.
Yeah?
And it is a chess match.
My producer, George, is a big chess guy.
Well, I'm going to have to play him because, that'll be fun. And so it's a tough thing. It's a and what I learned was I never want to be that person again. And every other time I went to another prison, they asked me to be in the feds. They call it the speaker. In the Denver City Jail, they call it the shot caller. And I don't want that job because I do remember having to send a guy make one of our guys leave the unit and make him check in. It's a thing where you go up to the deputy and tell him I'm not safe. It's not safe for me in here anymore. I got to leave. And they call you a rat after that because you cooperated with the deputies. You went and told on somebody. And so I had to make a guy leave, and I didn't want to do it. But he put me in a spot where I had no other choice. So what was going to happen was either all the white guys were going to get beat up pretty bad, or I get rid of this one guy.
And what do you mean by get rid of? Where do they go?
He goes to another unit.
Okay.
And so you check in, you tell them you're not safe in there, they send you to another unit. But when you get to that new unit, you're a check-in. They know how you got there. And it's unbelievable, the communication system they got in prison. You wouldn't believe the stuff that goes on in there, the things they make, the things they do, how they cook meals and steal food and do all the stuff.
Is there such a thing as prison hooch where they take the fruit and ferment it into alcohol? I hear that.
Only 1,000%. You can get anything you want in there, Wayne. You can get drugs, you can have your own cell phone. You can have your own cell phone in the federal prison.
Wow.
Yeah.
I understand ramen is a currency.
So ramen in the Denver City Jail is the currency. When you ask somebody, how much is this? It's this many soups. And that's what they're talking about. In the federal system, it's postage stamps. And so a book of stamps is worth a certain amount of money, and that's what you pay with. And they're old stamps that are they're feathered out and they're washed out and worn, and they've been sitting around.
But this is your means of communication with the outside world, so it's suddenly very valuable.
Well, not just your communication with the outside world. This is for your internal spending. So your communication with the outside, that's money that comes onto your books. So you get that from working your job, 11 cents an hour. So it takes you a while to build up to a phone call, paid by the job that you're doing in the federal system. And some people make up to $1. It's unbelievable. Per hour. It's fantastic, And, I don't think you pay taxes on that. This is what you call your hustle money, your side hustle. Everybody has a side hustle. They have a little job they do that brings them in the money that allows them to buy stuff. Now, some guys use it to buy drugs. Some guys use it to buy cell phones. Some guys use it for a variety of different things.
What did you use it for?
I use it to buy food.
Okay.
Yeah. And to pay for services. Sometimes you want somebody to do something.
Now, I understand from what you've told me how hard it is to have been a former cop, let alone a police chief behind bars. What happens when someone comes in and it is discovered by one of these racial organizations that you must belong to, and that person is a child molester, convicted child molester?
Well, we call them chomos in prison, and they got no friends. Okay, so when you're a chomo, you go into the chomo. Everything's called a car: the white car, black car, Hispanic car, Asian car. Chomo car, snitch car. Okay, so that's what you're in. And the guy that's the shot caller or the speaker, the leader of that, he's got the keys to the car. Get it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So the chomos have their own car. Now, every place you go, it's a little bit different because they call it a yard. When you get into prison, so you leave jail and you go to prison, they call it a yard. You walk the yard. You get out and you're walking the yard. You're going around places, doing different things. You go to training classes. You go to...
It's much more pleasant than county jail, I would
Not
assume.
a term I would use as pleasant. It is not pleasant anywhere. It is.
Isn't it an improvement over county jail?
There are improvements in it over county jail. It's safer to be in county jail for the inmate, because of the access, and they don't kill. You might fight a little bit, but not as many people get killed. When you get to federal prison, you can get killed very easily.
And we don't hear about it.
Oh, God. No. Listen, I was in Denver City Jail, and two guys got in a fight over an apple. The Mexican guy took the white guy into the shower and killed him. He didn't just kill him. He stomped him to death, breaking his neck and fracturing his skull. The whole place went on lockdown, right there on Colfax in Denver. The whole place went on lockdown. They did a giant investigation on the guy. And then 3 days later, or something in that range, they released the illegal alien that had killed the white guy, and he murdered him.
Now, you're the appointed against your will head of this white car.
Yeah.
He was one of your guys who died. What did you have
He
to
was
do?
not. He was in a separate unit from me.
Oh, okay.
So he wasn't in my car. And there would have been nothing I could have done, you know, because you can't. Look, at that time when I was in, and this is not that long ago, 4 years ago, at that time, the blacks ran everything, okay, because they had the biggest numbers. Then the Hispanics were next, and then the white guys, and then the Asians.
And what about the, what did you call them, the chomos?
The chomos, they don't run anything. They
must
get
just
beat up every day.
by all the other cars.
Everybody takes them on. Nobody cares about them. They're trash. We steal their food. You know, the best federal meal in prison is Friday afternoon. Our lunch is a chicken patty on a roll, and it's the best piece of food you're going to get the whole time from them in jail. And so we would walk into the Chomos unit when they would get the chicken patties, and they were told not to touch them. Don't touch that chicken patty. And then we would go in and take them. And we would eat their lunch, so to speak.
You never felt bad about that, I'm sure.
I never did. The only time I felt bad for a Chomo, and I didn't feel too bad for them, there are rules. So when the Chomos come in the feds, they're not allowed to look at us. They're not allowed to talk to us. They're not allowed to eat with us. They're not allowed to use the showers. They're not allowed to use the phones. And so they can come out of their cell. Now, it's an open pod. You're not outside. But they open up. You're in a cell, and you might be in there with 2 to 9 guys, okay, in your cell. But in the morning, those doors.
This is federal prison.
Federal prison. Okay. And so this is right down in Englewood.
Yeah,
okay?
I've actually visited someone at the Englewood Correctional Facility.
Yeah, that's it.
Who was also, he was in on a gun charge, and I think it was hyped up. But anyway, he was there for a short time, and I visited him, so I've been in there.
Yeah, I'm sure it was. And so the Chomos, they get identified by the guards as soon as they walk in. They hold their finger up over the top of their head and point to them, so we know this is a Chomo. Now, some of them, it's on the news, so we see him coming. Because you see a guy in federal court on the news, you know where he's going to be that night. If he's in Denver, he's going to be in the Englewood facility. Now, I didn't make it there because they kept me in Denver because they wanted me to get hurt. They wanted me to fight for my life, which I did in Denver. So we're in there. And, these rules are faced by the Chomos. So there's this guy, and he's the shot caller, the speaker for the white car in our unit. And there's this Chomo guy. He didn't look like a Chomo. He looks like a biker. Okay. He looks like a big burly biker, beard and all that, and it's kind of shocking, And he walks by and he looks at me, and I've seen this look a million times, Wayne. He's looking at me because he recognizes me, but he can't figure out where he recognized me from. So he looks again. Well, Oscar sees this guy look, and he goes, "Did he just look at you?" I go, "Yeah." We jump up, we bolt into his room, beat the brakes off the guy. You're not allowed to look at us. You're not allowed to, And so
there's no consequence for that. I mean, it's not like the prison guards are upset because you beat up a Chomo.
They pay no attention.
Okay.
There's one guard sitting around somewhere doing nothing that has anything to do with protecting any of us. They wouldn't get involved in that situation for love or money. Fights happen every single day, sometimes 6-8 fights a day. Now, the only time they get out on Front Street that everybody's going to see them is when they do it in front of the cameras, in front of everybody. And here's a couple guys that want to go away. They don't want to be there. They want to get out, and this is a way they can get out of the unit. They owe somebody money. They borrowed money for drugs. They used up a cell phone. They got a bill, and they want to get away from it. So they get into a little scuffle, and then boom, they're gone. But guys that really want to get in a fight, they go somewhere where there's no cameras, and they fight. Mm-hmm. Now, occasionally there's a fight that just goes off and it works. It moves. Fights don't stay stationary, and it moves out into a place where there's cameras and cops. And the cops will come in when it's been going on for a while, and then they pepper spray everybody and walk away.
So this guy, he recognizes you probably from American Gun,
totally.
the TV show.
Yeah, the poor bastard.
And you didn't want that.
No.
And so you go in and you beat him to a
Well,
pulp.
not me. Oscar goes, and I got to go with him. Right, mm-hmm. Because you can't leave a man alone, in your crew, and other guys got to go. If you don't go, then you're going to get disciplined. So, do I want to protect this guy who's a Chomo? Absolutely not. No interest whatsoever in mm-hmm. protecting a Chomo. And the funny thing about the Chomos is they all got a story. There's an awful lot of guys that are being there, and they'll tell you, "I did this, I did that," right? But the chomos, I didn't do anything. I got arrested because I looked at something on the internet. It accidentally popped up. Well, I didn't know about this stuff, right? Because this isn't something I'm ever going to look at. You're not going to, this
No.
is. I don't know how. I don't know why you would look. Like it doesn't even make sense to
Well,
me.
that's bull crap too. These people download the stuff.
Well, and Wayne, I was naive to that because I am not a computer person, right? And I talked to some of them, and they said, it's all a lie. You're on the dark web. You can't You've never been on the dark web.
No, I don't even know how to get on the dark web.
But they know how to do it, and they know where to go, and they know what they're doing. Of course, the most famous chomo that got the crap kicked out of him when I was there in Englewood was Jared, the Subway guy.
Oh yeah, he was in Englewood.
Oh, they beat the brakes off him.
Oh my God!
I mean, he was out there jogging, doing his little jogging around the track, and I think the guy was about 65 years old. He just stood over at the very end of the track and just waited for him to come. And when he came, he just bam, and just smashed him out, got him down, just beat the brakes off him. And now that one was high profile.
Well, yeah, that guy was very high profile. I mean, he sold sandwiches for decades before it was discovered as a chomo.
He's a chomo, and he got smashed out because almost everybody in there is a dad,
Yeah.
and you got to go. You just got to go.
This guy that you had beat up because he recognized you.
Well, I didn't do it.
No,
I
but
didn't
but you were along.
I was
right?
there.
Okay,
Yeah.
and did somebody talk to him and say, "You forget"? How'd you get the message across other than beating him up?
Day one, when you walk in, we walk in and tell you the rules. You break these rules, you get beat up.
Okay.
So when they break those rules, they get beat up. It's just like kids.
You don't have to say a thing.
No,
They
nothing
know.
said. You know what's going to happen. If you come out of that room and you start walking around and talking to us, you're getting beat up. If you come out of that room and you go pick up the phone, you're getting beat up. If you come out of that room, the only time you're allowed to come out of that cell when we're all walking what's called the interior yard, the inside yard there, and like the outside yard, the only time you're allowed to come out is to pick up your tray and go back in to eat it. And then at night, when they lock us all down, the guards let them come out, use the showers and the phones because they can't intermingle with us. And you know what? The inmates control the prison and they make the rules. The discipline happens. So what happens is the leader of the black car comes to the leader of the white car and he says, hey, your guy did this. What do you want to do? And we say, we'll give him to you.
And were you the leader both in Denver jail and in the federal pen?
No. So when I went to the feds, I learned my lesson. I don't, like when somebody said something to me, what do you think we should do about this? I go, I don't know who you're talking to, but I'm not, and they vote. There's actual, you're not going to believe this. There's actual elections in the feds to elect the guy who's in charge. And they beg people, just like we do out here, to run for office. And they begged me to run for office, but I wouldn't do it. And see, because when you're the speaker, when something bad happens, you're on the line. You got to be front and center.
Well, you're responsible for everything.
And the pay sucked. The benefits were terrible. You got nothing out of it. Mm-hmm. There's no reward. It's not like politics in America where you can become filthy, stinking rich. It doesn't happen. And so, I remember a 57-year-old, and at the time I was a little younger than him, a lawyer that was in, and he was in for bribing judges. He's a piece of trash. I mean, a really bad guy. And he's all big weightlifter, got the huge neck and the big arms, and he's working out every day, and he's got tons of money. And he walked over and changed the channel on the Hispanic, the Mexican TV.
Uh-oh.
And they came to us and said, hey, man, your guy changed our channel and watched our TV. Oh, my God, this is an act of war. We're going to go to war now. So they said, you got to do something to him. So we said, okay. So we went to him and we took him in a bathroom, and he's down on the floor laying in, what's on the floor of a bathroom. Mm-hmm. And he's getting the crap beat out of him. And I got in trouble for this one because I didn't like the guy, but I started pulling guys off because they were really going to town on him.
They were going to kill him.
I don't think they were going to kill him, but he was going to be hurt. Mm-hmm. They weren't going to kill him, but he was going to be hurt. And after it was over, they said, don't do that again. Don't ever do that again. Don't you stop us. I said, okay, I got it. I got the rules,
That's what he said. The lawyer said that.
No, the lawyer didn't say another word. He never spoke to any of us ever again. He was there. You're not going to believe some of these things because it's unbelievable. He was given bunk orders. He was confined to his bunk. He couldn't leave his bunk except to go to the bathroom. And so he wasn't allowed to go chow, wasn't allowed to go watch TV, wasn't allowed to leave, walk the yard, he wasn't allowed to get up and
this
go.
was orders of the leader of the white car.
Right. We had another meeting and we voted on it. And I didn't like the guy and they were voting to keep him. And I didn't want him there. So I said, I'm sorry, let me speak. Guys, this guy, you're not changing this guy. He's 57 years old. He does whatever the hell he wants. He's going to put us, this is not the first time, the second time, or the third time he's put us in this position. You must check him in because he's got to go.
What's the process to get him moved?
He walks to the office and goes in and says, I'm not safe in there. Somebody's going to kill me. I won't tell you who it is, and I got to go. And they sent him off the yard. So in the feds, he leaves the yard and goes to another prison in another state.
Okay.
Now, you want to know why him and I didn't get along?
Yeah.
He didn't like Trump. And
Really?
Oh my God. And he and I would go at it. He screwed up with me right in the beginning. We got along great because we both had been to, similar places on vacation and done similar things. And we had similar, parts of our lives. He was a very wealthy guy from a very wealthy family. He was a trust fund puke.
That's why he was able to bribe judges.
He was bribing judges. Yep.
Yeah.
And so I was watching Fox News one time and I said something about, look at Trump, the greatest president. He goes, he's not the greatest president. Now everybody's watching, right? And so he gets up and he goes, you're not allowed. And he is in charge because he's got seniority over me. So I have to sit in a chair in a specific place to watch TVs. And I'm not allowed to sit at the table, the main table. So he picks up the remote and he switches it back to CNN and tell me what a scumbag Trump is. I said, you're wrong. You don't know what you're talking about. He said, I'll kick your ass right now. I said, go ahead. Do it. I got more fights over Trump than almost anything else.
Really?
Over my love for Trump.
Is there a lot of hatred for Trump in prison, or is there a lot of support and hatred?
There used to be mostly hatred. But when he signed that First Step Act, the world turned. And I was in there telling everybody how great he was. You guys got it wrong. You don't understand what's going on. I'm talking to groups of black guys saying, hey, you got to love Trump. Tell your family members to vote for Trump. He's going to pass the First Step Act, which let us out of prison in time. Not early, but in time. They were holding that back from us. I said, Obama never signed it. You say he's so great? He didn't sign it. He could have signed it. And then Trump signed the First Step Act. And guys were immediately released from prison within days. And when that happened, people were like, Wyatt's right.
Mm-hmm.
He's right. And so this guy, he got himself in a little position and he started taking swings at me like he was going to punch me. And I just sat there and said, do it. The rules are you got to hit me first, then it's my turn. And he threw 3 fake punches at me. And all the white guys got up and took off because they don't want to be involved. Right. But all the black guys and all the Hispanic guys were watching. It got over with and he got up and he walked out of the room. He said, I'm done with you. I said, yeah, whatever. He said, you're not allowed to watch TV. I said, don't tell me what to do. You're not my dad. And he walked out of the room. And that night, the leader of the black car, a giant guy. You remember that guy, Michael Duncan, that was the big guy on Green Mile?
Oh, yeah.
The big black guy?
Right.
He looked like that guy.
Wow.
This guy. And he come, hey, can I talk to you? I was like, you sure? What? Yeah, I want to talk to you about some guns because they can't just come up and talk. I said, okay. So he starts talking. He goes, actually, we watched what happened today, and we just want to let you know we got respect.
That was nice.
And they
it?
said, I said, what? He goes, yeah, man, you didn't flinch. You didn't stutter, stammer, shake. We know you're a badass. And the blacks respect you. And he walked away. And that was it. And that's what it's all about. It's respect in that prison. If they respect you, they'll leave you alone. They know. And then after that, they would come to me for help. I'd help them write legal papers. I'd help them do lots of stuff, do different things. And, and it made life more comfortable because they watched that you are not afraid to fight. And that's the key. And so for so many people, they go in, I'd love to start a business where we teach people how to go to prison.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why I don't do it. I don't know how. I don't know how to build a website. I don't know how to do all this stuff, But I think there was a movie about it called Get Hard with those two guys, the little short black funny guy. What's his name?
Will Ferrell and Kevin Hart.
Thank you.
George says it's Will Ferrell.
Will Ferrell. Thank you, Mr. Producer. Will Ferrell and Kevin Hart. Funny movie. Not realistic, but funny.
I'll have to see it.
And Will Ferrell thinks that because Kevin Hart's black, that he's been to prison. So he hires him because he's a rich guy to teach him how to act in prison. Well, Kevin Hart never been to prison, just needed the money. And that's the funniest part of the whole thing. And so, but there is an actual place. Like when the Chrisleys from reality TV went to prison, I had just gotten out. And I called their lawyer and said, hey, I'd like to help them, but nobody ever called me back.
That would be an interesting firm.
Yeah. It is. And it's very, very important because when you walk in there, Joe Schmo, you're going to get taken advantage of immediately.
Especially if you're not a real criminal, but you are somebody who's been targeted for your politics. You're not criminally oriented. You don't know what these people are like who are the actual hardened criminals.
But even a guy that commit a crime who's not a criminal, okay? There's a book called 3 Felonies a Day. Every single person that owns a business in America commits at least 3 felonies every
I've heard
single
of the book,
day.
haven't read it.
It's a dry book. Don't read it.
If they target you, for whatever reason, they can come up with something.
You're done.
Yeah.
You are done. Because the federal law is written so ambiguously that anybody fits into the box. You just can't get out of the box. 92,000 pages of IRS law. Who could comply with that? Nobody. Yeah. Nobody on the planet
You're
can.
trip up
It's impossible to comply. Compliance is not possible. So the only people that don't go to jail for it are people they choose not to send to jail for it, right? But even if a guy commits a crime, let's say a guy he moves some stocks or he does insider trading, okay? All right, he did insider trading. He told somebody about something, they got out of it. Is that really horrible? And now he's going to go to prison, right?
Right.
And he goes to prison for 2-3 years. Well, he's got to survive that encounter. Bernie Madoff. Now, he was a bad guy, okay? He stole everybody's money. People commit suicide over it. He's a very bad person, right? Mm-hmm. He was a thief. But he lived a lifestyle that doesn't know what it looks like in prison. So when he went in there, it was very, very, very difficult for him. But one thing you gain, like when P. Diddy goes to prison, because he's going.
Well, and he's in the lap of luxury on the outside. That's just got to be an unbelievable shock to the system.
Yes.
To go from having anything you want, you're a billionaire.
Yes.
You have people waiting on you full time. You live in the lap of luxury, every creature comfort anyone can conceive of, and then you're in the prison.
But when he goes to prison, he's going to be a celebrity.
That's not good.
He will be revered. The blacks will love him.
Oh, so it is good.
Oh, for him. Oh, for him, it's going to be great because he's a black guy. Mm-hmm. The blacks protect the blacks no matter what. The blacks seldom have a chomo. They got them, but they won't tell us they are. And so they keep them in kind of in-house, so to speak. And it's wrong. But in the prison, being black is more important than being a human, to most people, And so it's very, very, very difficult. But P. Diddy, just like what's that other idiot's name? R. Kelly, that, he was a rapper. He went in. Huge celebrity. If you do things and you're a big basketball, I mean, my God, if you're a basketball player or football player, you get into prison, you're like a god.
Whereas you didn't want to be revealed as a celebrity.
Well, even me, when I went in there, when I walked in, when they put it in the news and I finally walked in, when I got into the federal prison in Quincy, the first time I went in there was a line of guys.
This is Illinois now. You've been transferred.
No, right here in Englewood, Colorado.
Oh, okay. Yeah, on Quincy. Yeah.
And I go and I'm going and there's a line of guys and they're all giving me gifts when I walked in, stuff to help you get by. Not like a
because I knew you from TV.
They said, "Hey, here comes one of our guys. He's our guy. Look at him go."
Wow.
And he's in here, and and they took care of me. But then there's other guys that are going to take advantage of it. They try to give you drugs, so you get owing them money, and you get hooked on drugs. I never, of course, I didn't take drugs when I was out. I didn't take drugs when I was in. I never drank the hooch when I was in there. Guys begged me to get high. They were like, "Please take this pot. Take this K2. We want to see you high. We just want to see. Just do it one time. Just let us just see you high." It's not happening, fellas. It is not happening. It's not going to happen in here because I can't drop my guard.
So did you do the full time in Denver and Englewood, or did they transfer you?
I went to Denver, then I went to Englewood, and then I went to Oklahoma City, El Reno, Oklahoma, Beaumont, Texas, Leavenworth, Kansas, and back to Englewood, Colorado.
Wow. Yeah. What was Leavenworth like? That must have been I've heard terrible things.
It's all true. Everything you heard. There's a book. Read a book called The Hot House. And it'll tell you about Leavenworth. That the walls are 35 feet in the ground.
Wow! So you can't dig through, dig under. Yeah,
you can't get out. And it used to be a USP. Now it's like a medium USP. So there's really 5 levels of prison in the feds. There's camp, low, medium, USP, and supermax, which the only supermax is here in Colorado.
Right. That's where Madoff ended up.
Did he end up in supermax?
I thought so. I thought he was.
He could have. That's probably why he lived, because if he hadn't been in supermax, they'd have killed him.
Yeah.
Because what he hurt people that they knew. If you do something that hurts people that they know, they're going to get you. And so supermax is 0 human touch. You don't get contacted.
You don't get to talk to anybody. That's
you don't
just
get
pure
a letter
isolation.
comes up on a screen. You don't get to touch it. You don't get to, the food comes through a tray.
What hell that
comes
must
through.
be.
Oh, I got put in the hole 4 times when I was in prison. 4
For
different
fights?
times. For a variety of different things.
Yeah.
And then I think the least I stayed in there was for a month. And
What's that like?
terrible.
You're
Terrible.
total isolation.
No, you actually have a cellie.
Okay.
And but you don't leave. You get out, maybe 1 hour a day. You get a shower, maybe every 3 days. And you're living in a little box. You're going to the bathroom, taking with another guy sitting right there looking at you. It's just there's rules, but it's horrific. It's terrible. It's just.
Why all the transfers?
The reason for all the transfers was once you get comfortable in a place and they see that you're doing okay. I was a special client to the BOP, so they would move me in order to put me back at risk again. Because every time you go to a new prison, you got to go in and prove yourself, and you got to go in and you got to say who you are and what you did, and it's a language, and you got to learn it, and you got to know what you're doing. And by the time I was done, I got it down. But for people that don't know it, you're screwed, And so they call it checking your paperwork. Well, you're not allowed to have your paperwork now. So, they want to see your paperwork. So if you walk in and tell them what you did and they believe you, you're okay. So I'd walk in and go, guns and taxes, I'm no chomo, don't touch me.
Mm-hmm.
And they would look at you and go, okay, we got your paperwork? I said, look it up. You can go to the law library. I took my case to trial. It's on the record. Now, those are terms they understand and they know. And so they can go look it up. And if they go look it up and you lied, they will beat you down, right? And so, every once in a while we'd have a chomo come in and lie. And it would take us a week to 10 days to figure it out, and he would get smashed out.
Yeah.
And so the other thing they can do is they can order you to send in your paperwork. So you have your lawyer send your paperwork in a lawyer letter into the system, and you got to give it to the shot caller sealed. So he opens it up and looks and sees what you did.
This is the leader of the car.
This is the leader of the car.
Okay.
And they come and say, okay, we want your paperwork.
What prison were you in when you got unleashed?
So when I got out, they flew me back to Englewood, Colorado, and I was released. And it was a Friday afternoon, and it was hot, and COVID was going, and you people were all jacked up out here and weren't living like free Americans. You were wearing masks and not looking at each other or talking to each other, and if things were shut down, I thought I stepped into the twilight zone. And I got out with a plastic bag full of my 4 years worth of whatever I want. Most of the stuff you give away, And I left. My bag tore. The guards lied to me about where I needed to go because it was COVID. They wouldn't allow people to come onto the property to pick you up, so I had to walk away. They told me to walk to the Walmart, which is over a mile away.
Mm-hmm.
What are you, nuts? I'm in sandals and a size 100 waist size pair of jeans that could have fit 7 guys in there and a schmedium T-shirt, and it's just terrible. And the whole world's a different place when I walk out. Luckily, I got through it. I got a friend came, picked me up, and I got out of there, and that was my first moment out of prison, and it was shocking to have the freedom again, to walk down the road, to not be told where to be standing, and not be told what time to go to bed, not be told what time to go to the doctor, not be told in prison you have no control over your life.
And you fear for your life the whole time.
Luckily, this is an area that I taught, right? I don't live in fear. I just live prepared. There were times I was in fear, and fear is something you can't live in.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was not in fear the whole time I was in there. There were times I was incredibly scared, More scared than I've ever been. More scared than I've been chasing guys with guns through a building or running into a house where a guy...
As a cop.
As a cop. We're running into a house where a guy had killed 3 of his kids and his wife, and I got to go in there to confront him because the fireman said he's in there with a gun. More scared than I ever was running into a burning building when everybody else is running out was when I was in prison.
So you're out, you're free, you have nothing. You've lost your business. You've lost your TV show. I don't know about your family at that point.
I could not go home to my family. I was on probation, and I was not allowed to go home to my family.
So you have nothing.
I have nothing.
What do you do?
Well, fortunately, my beautiful wife arranged for a little cabin for me to stay in off the grid, and I was able to go there and utilize that facility. But the next 3 years were hell. That year on probation was very, very difficult. Everything's controlled. You can't do anything. It's
So you're free from prison, but you're still under the thumb.
Totally. All they got to do is snap their fingers. You're back in. You go right back into prison. And the probation is hard because you can't have a bank account. You can't have a credit card. You got to get permission for everything. They want to see everything and know what you're doing. I was lucky, actually. The one thing that was of value to me was COVID crushed them because they wouldn't let me go in the office to see them. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, I would have had to be going in there.
Did that help you get out earlier, COVID?
I couldn't get out any earlier. The judge gave me I was supposed to have 4 years of probation. I only had 1 because they had kept me in for too long. When I won my appeal, or when it was clear I was gonna, it's semantics, but when I knew I was going to win my appeal, they weren't supposed to have me in prison, and they should have let me out right then, and they didn't. But they're evil, you know. The judge, I will admit this, I'm not a fan of judges, but the judge that let me out, Judge Bremer, was a very good man. He's still there in the 10th Circuit today, and he was very, very kind and very thoughtful.
So since then, how many years later is it that you get elected as chairman of the Jeffco County GOP? And that's kind of a big deal because Jeffco, I think, is second only to El Paso County, which is the most populous county in Colorado, in terms of the size and magnitude of the Republican Party.
Right. We're the number 2 county. We're really number 1 because we're better than El Paso. No, I'm just kidding. No, Jeffco is a big county, and we stretch all the way down here at the little point in the bottom, and we go way up north. And we've got, city jurisdictions like Wheat Ridge, Lakewood, Arvada, Golden,
lots of metro,
part of
Denver.
Westminster.
Yeah.
And so we run right up to Denver. And, being elected was difficult. I didn't want the job, but I couldn't allow what was happening in our party to continue to happen. And the reason that we have failed so badly in politics in Colorado is because our own party is fractured and splintered. And we love to sit around fighting inside of our own party as opposed to just winning and fighting.
Who's a real Republican and who's a rhino? That's the big deal in the Republican Party right now. We're divided right down the middle.
Yeah. But
I mean, even people, including Lauren Boebert, have been labeled rhinos by this insane organization, Rhino Watch, that put her on the rhino list. Now, I mean, she's you can say whatever you want about Lauren Boebert. She is certainly not I wouldn't think a rhino.
Well, look what Trump thinks of her.
I don't know what he thinks of her.
Not much.
Okay.
Because you watch, he snubs her. He doesn't shake hands with her. He doesn't give her a big hug. He doesn't like her. It appears that he doesn't like her much anymore. And she has gone to the dark side. And she has done things she shouldn't have done. And she has not lived up to things she should live up to. She's not the same person as when she got in. You could see the break when she started dating Democrats and hanging out and flipping people off and just being a different person. Mm-hmm. And it's a tragedy, to be honest with you. But the problem is...
I had a lot of hope for her when she was first elected. I liked her backstory.
Yeah.
High school dropout, learns about capitalism, working at McDonald's, and then becomes a business owner.
Yeah.
And a gun advocate. I mean, I thought, well, this is the American dream, but it didn't go well after she got elected, apparently.
It did for a while, you know, and there's something that happens in the swamp that just drags you into the swamp, you know, and she's gone into the swamp, you know, in my opinion, and that's too bad, you know. But She does for her, not for other people. And if you get into politics to do for yourself, not for other people, it's not going to work out well. Because you have to be there to protect America. You have to. It's very hard to find. Where could you find somebody like Donald J. Trump? He has lost half his wealth by being president of the United States. Everybody else gets rich. Lauren Boebert, she's getting rich being a politician. Okay, all these people, you should not get rich. You should not. They should not be getting paid. Okay?
No, it's amazing how members of Congress who make $200,000 a year or whatever it is, it's in that range. The lives they lead do not comport with that amount of income.
No, because they get a budget of millions of dollars on top of their salary to spend to do their job. And so they got all this money to go all these places. They do all these things. They get to hang out with the rich and famous. Look at, what's her name, the bartender, the idiot, AOC?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. She's an excellent bartender. I'm sure she's great at it. Terrible as a congresswoman, right? But she's worth millions of dollars.
They're talking about making her the Democratic nominee for president.
President of what?
The United States.
Of America?
Yeah.
Oh, my God. Well, I hope they do that because that'll be another confirmed win, just like Kamala
That's why
Harris.
she and Bernie Sanders are jetting all over the country.
Love it. Bernie never won. AOC will never win. Harris will never win. It's fantastic. I hope they keep putting these people up. If they keep putting these losers up that lie to America about what's going on, we will never have to worry about losing a race again, right? Because we are powerful. And we've got our voice out. Here's what's happening. Here's what I'm going to do in the Republican Party. I do want to stop the fighting. Even though I just said bad stuff, I want to stop the fighting because I want people to get along. But they got to do the right thing. You see, it's more important to me that we get the right people elected than just people that are electable. Do you see what I mean? And so we need young people to get elected that are going to go in there and do a good job and then go on with their lives. Just go in, get out, and move on. Right? We don't need you in there for 100 years.
We don't need career
I don't want to
politicians.
see, Lauren Boebert become a Nancy Pelosi that's been there for 250 years. Okay? I mean, Pelosi, that's been there for...
It's likely.
Yeah. No, it's not.
Really?
I don't think so.
You don't think she'll hold office over in the fourth?
No, I don't think she'll hold it unless she turns around. Look, you don't get along. You don't have Donald Trump not be happy with you and stick around. He's the man. That's all there is to it. And so anyway, I want to see people getting along and working together to make our party better. But we have such separation. You look at the state party. It's in shambles. It's a turmoil. It's just terrible. And we need to get past that and move on, but it's not happening. So one group...
It's not only it's irrelevant except for the fact that Republicans are worse off with it in the last few years. Now, I'm not saying that's the trajectory of it right now. We'll see. But Republicans would have been better off without a party as opposed to what they've had for the last 3 or 4
Well, they have
years.
to have a party. They've got to. But what we have to do, and this is the critical thing, and this is the most important thing, it's separate from politics. What we have to do is appeal to the youth. We have to get youth involved because they are mad. They saw that TikTok got canceled. Okay, they're addicted to TikTok. When TikTok got canceled, they called 911 and said, "What do I do? My TikTok's off." "Oh, I don't know. Get a baseball bat and a ball and go out and play a game. Stuff that go play street ball, go do something, go hike. Stuff that we all used to do as kids, and now they don't do because they just sit on that phone and just sit there and look at the phone." When it came back on, Wayne, the message was, "Thank you, President Trump." He wasn't even president yet. "Thank you, President Trump, for turning TikTok back on." Now, when TikTok went back on, all these kids said, "Trump did that? That's cool." They're open books now for us to go in and say, "Please join us." We're not what the Democrats say we are. We don't hate people because they're gay. We don't hate people because they have different views than us. We don't do this stuff. We're not against you. We love freedom. We protect freedom. The liberals are the ones that take it away. We, the Republicans, freed the slaves. We, the Republicans, passed the Civil Rights Acts. This wasn't the Democrats that did
That's
these
right.
things.
The Democrats are the ones who filibustered the Civil Rights Act of 1964.
100%.
Yeah.
The gun control laws that we have today in Colorado that are so bad started because the liberals did not want the slaves that were freed from the plantations in America to have guns. That was the inception of Gun Control Act, is racism. They did not want the blacks to own guns. Mm-hmm. Now, you look at slavery and you say, okay, slavery is a terrible thing. Some people didn't leave. They stayed at the plantation they were at because the owner, while he may have purchased them, which I don't agree with, but he treated them well and they didn't want to leave and they stayed. Mm-hmm. Okay, that's
I've heard those stories.
That's great.
Yeah.
And, the story of Roots is not the story. That's the minimalist of what happened. The maximum of what happened was people loved their bosses and stayed there. And we create these laws against bosses, people who have the courage, the guts, the stamina to get out and build a business and hire people and provide for people. And we pass laws that make it impossible for them to stay in business.
It's almost a crime. I've lost count of the number of bills that have passed in the last 8 years that make it easier for employees to sue employers.
Oh, it's a piece of cake.
That, our minimum wage mandates make it reduce greatly the number of people an employer can hire. These prospective employees are now liabilities.
Oh, you can't afford. Look, minimum wage is out of sight. It's out of. You cannot. They said it's not a livable wage. I'm not hiring people I'm hiring people that live in their home with their parents at a fast food restaurant. I'm hiring people that live there and that they don't need a livable wage.
College students, 15-year-olds, people who need some sort of starting. I remember.
What was your first real job?
Well, I worked on a pig farm for a long time. And then when I went to college, while I was in college and not anywhere near the pig farm, which I did in the summers while I was in college, I worked at Burger King.
So did I. Burger King
minimum wage.
$2.32 an hour, minimum wage. Burger King was my first job on the Post Road in Southport, Connecticut. Southport, Connecticut.
Wow.
And isn't that funny? That we both started on the same joint. And you know what? I don't want to work there again. But
I don't either. But I needed it at the time. I celebrated when I got that job.
So did I.
And it wasn't easy to get at the time.
And I also celebrated when I left. Because it was a bad job.
That's right. It wasn't fun, was it?
It was not a good job.
The best thing they ever did was put me on parking lot duty. I loved when I got parking lot duty.
Really? What did you cleaning up out there?
No, I had to go out there and a hot summer day, so it was a scorching usually. But I'm looking for cars that are parked there illegally and reporting them so a tow truck could come pull them away. I always felt bad about that, but it was a lot easier than slinging patties.
We never had that job.
Machine.
When the worst thing that happened to me, I came out, I got told to go clean up the dining room. First of all, where's the dining room? Oh, that place where people eat. That's a dining room to you?
I remember back then you cleaned the tables with a bleach rag. They don't do that anymore.
No.
You go into these restaurants and the tables just
trashed.
Yeah.
So I got out there, I went out there, and this kid threw a shake at another kid. And I said, hey, you're cleaning that up, because it was all over the wall. And I went back inside, and the manager said, what are you doing? I said, I just caught this kid throwing a shake up. It's okay, though. I got it. He's going to clean it up. He goes, you can't make him clean it up. I said, I already did it. It's done. He goes, you can't do it. I go, what? He walks outside. He goes, you guys, go ahead. He'll clean it up. Don't worry. I said, I'm not cleaning that up. He goes, what? I said, I'm not doing it. I'm not cleaning that up. He walked in. He got like a 30-year-old guy that worked there. And he said, you got to clean it up. And the kid said, well, Rich is on duty. He goes, well, he won't do it, so you're going to do it. And I just thought to myself, it just wasn't right. I got the kid that did it. There should be consequences for his action.
Did he work there, or was this a customer?
No, he's a customer.
Okay.
And he said the customer doesn't have to clean it up. I said, the customer did it. He should clean it up.
Right.
But, that's the mentality we have today, this inappropriate mentality. I've been in retail all my life. People say the customer's always right. No, they are not. Okay. Mm-hmm. When I had Gunsmoke, I threw people out. You get out. I mean, that's it. Get out.
No, simply being a customer doesn't make everything you do noble.
No, you have to have customer service. But so anyway, I want to bring the youth back into.
How are you going to do that?
Okay, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to hire interns that are kids to start a social media platform. First thing I got to do is raise a little money, because I was left in the lurch and in bad shape by the last people for the last 6 years that have run it. They did a terrible job. And so I'm going to get in there, and I'm already doing it. I'm already moving, already on the track, right? I'm going to get some money raised up, and we're going to do great things. We're going to hire these kids. We're going to bring them in, and kids will attract kids, right? Because I'm not attracting kids. You're not attracting kids. I mean, our kids hang around us because they have to.
Well, I'm always amazed, though. Like, Ronald Reagan had a huge following of youth.
Yes.
So did Bernie Sanders.
Yes.
I think there is an element of youth culture that sort of looks up to the old and the wise.
Sure, but they don't want to hang out with us the whole day.
Right.
They want us to be there and give them some pearls of wisdom and then let them go be kids. And that's what we're going to do. And we're going to bring these kids back in, and we're going to bring the right kids in. Now, I'm going to say this, and this is a little different. So I believe in unity in our party. If I agree with you 70, 80% of the time, okay, we're together.
I'm with you 100% on that. Yeah.
I'm with you, we're together.
Because
right?
I just, I mean, I don't understand these Republicans who have these purity tests. You might disagree with them 5% of the time, and now all of a sudden you're an outcast.
And that's bad. Now, Rhino Watch, I get what they're trying, what the goal is, what they're trying to do.
Sure.
And there are some people that go too far. If you're voting with the Democrats, go be a Democrat. Look at Ben Nighthorse Campbell. He was a Democrat. He switched over to the Republican Party because he couldn't take it anymore.
Right.
If you want to be a Democrat, go be a Democrat. We got people that should be Democrats that are in the Republican
and you're going to
Party.
find that in all safe districts. So, where a district is overwhelmingly, or jurisdiction of any kind is overwhelmingly Democrat or Republican, you're going to have people from the other side pretend to be the majority part of the majority
that's what
party.
Rhino Watch is for. We got to stop those people. That's not okay.
That's right. And that's legitimate, but they, cross lines sometimes.
They cross the line. Look, I don't know why people give up their values because they got into politics. If it's for the money, they got to go. They got to go. They're no good, and they got to go. When you get in and go, well, my opinion changed because I got this job. Okay, get out of this job then. Because the reason you went in was for something else. Donald Trump's opinion hadn't changed.
Not at all.
Not at all.
He
He's
doesn't
rock
budge.
solid. He's paid the price.
I don't know of another person I've ever seen in my lifetime who cares less about what other people think of him.
And you know what the truth is? He does care what people think. I don't know him, but I've been as close as I am to you.
But he doesn't succumb to pressure. You can't gaslight
you
him.
cannot
That's my
gaslight
point,
him.
yes.
He does care what you think about him, but he's not willing to make that the priority.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So he's not going to give up his values to make you like him. But if you like him with his values, he's a good friend.
And he seems to put up with a lot of people who don't agree with him 20, 30% of the time.
Look at Bill Maher.
Yeah,
Bill
exactly.
Maher went in there with Kid Rock, and Bill Maher went in there and he walked out thinking, this is a good man.
And he's never retracted any of that.
Yeah,
He doesn't apologize for it.
And they are on him about it. How could you do this? Well, he is a rational liberal. You can see he didn't used to be.
No, he used to be a leftist.
When I first got the TV show, I remember Bob Glass being on there. And I remember thinking to myself, I could have done so much better than Bob Glass did against Bill Maher.
Oh, sure.
And when they said, Rich, what shows do you want to be on? I listed number 1, Politically Incorrect with Bill Maher. But Bill Maher wouldn't take me.
That's too bad. That would have been a great show.
That's why he didn't take me. Now, I bet he'd take me now. All right. But back then, they wouldn't allow me on the show. Now, I don't know if it was actually Bill Maher or his people, but all I know is I got the no. Yeah. And I asked Jay Leno to let me on. He said, hey, I'm not in charge of who comes on. Now, if he really wanted me on, I'd have been on. But I didn't make it on to Jay Leno. But Jay Leno was a great guy. Not a gun guy, not a political guy, just a good guy. And so we need to build our platform. And one of the other problems we have is the way the laws are established now, we have this opportunity through mail-in ballots to cheat. We got to stop this stuff. We got to stop cheating. Everybody, this should be a nonpartisan issue. Everybody should want free and fair elections unless you know you're cheating. Then you want the cheating elections, right? Mm-hmm. We got to stop that. The kids will do that. The youth will bring this stuff out. They'll bring it to a head. When they start to realize what's going on, they're going to go, holy crap, I can't let this happen. So we're going to bring in the youth. We're going to build it. It's going to take a while. It's not going to happen overnight. Okay, Jefferson County's not going to turn just because Rich Wyatt became the chair. It's going to take a lot of work. Not just me. There's a lot of people. I got some very, very good people we're working with in Jefferson County. We're doing great things. Ronnie and Jackie are both elected officials with me, and we're together. We're lock in step. You're not going to get in between us. You're not going to separate us. We get it. We understand each other. We don't always agree.
How did you get elected? I mean, when you got elected, the headlines were, of course, convicted felon elected Jeffco GOP chair, and they tried to make a big deal out of that.
And you know who sent those headlines out?
No.
Republicans.
I totally believe that.
Yeah.
And I've talked to a lot of Republican associates who have said that was a really bad idea. That's the last thing the Republican Party needs is to elect somebody like that.
Yeah.
Because of your felony conviction.
Yeah.
Despite, we've talked about that and we realize the bullshit that it really is. But how did you overcome that? Because people just immediately, and Trump overcame it. But the expectation on those who persecute people politically is that once you have that felony attached to you, you're done politically.
Well, here's how. I was better than everybody else that ran. I could do a better job, and they knew it. Even people that don't like me had to say, I don't like that guy, but he's going to do a better job. I'm not asking you to have dinner with Donald Trump. You don't have to like him, but he's the best president we ever had. I personally like him. I love him. I like him. I love him. Okay? And here's the thing. I was a felon before it was cool.
It's cool now? Is that right?
The president's a felon, and so is the chair of Jefferson County Party.
You know, and he seems to have a lot of support among felons who feel they were wrongly convicted, wrongly charged.
He just put a felon as the deputy director of the Bureau of Prisons today or yesterday. That's a brilliant move. I want to go work for him in that capacity. Okay, that's a great spot. That's a place for him to be. We know what's really going on at prison, and we can fix it immediately because I know the ups and downs. I know what's wrong with it. That Bureau of Prisons does nothing to rehabilitate anybody ever. Nobody gets help in that prison. You don't get help if you're a drug addict. You don't get help if you're an alcoholic. You don't get help on learning new skill sets when you get out. Look, when I came out, I was a fireman, a cop, and a gunsmith, gun shop owner. All three things I can't do as a felon, right? So what'd they teach me when I was in prison? Nothing except for being a felon. They taught me to do felonies. That's what they teach. It's a school of hard knocks criminals. You know, they taught me to be a criminal. I could have walked out and been a criminal. Could have been easy. I could have made a lot of money right away. Boom, fast. I mean, I heard some stuff that I thought, you know, if you were smart and you did that, you could kill it. They'd never catch you. But I'm not doing it because it's against the law. I don't want to do it, you know. And so I want to see the Republican Party build America back up just like Donald J. Trump was. I'm going to tell you one thing, and then I met Eric Trump before Donald Trump was president. And I walked into a meeting. He was speaking at the Colorado Christian University, and I walked in to get introduced to him in the green room. And when I walked in, I introduced myself. And he said, I know you. And I said, no, you don't know me. And he said, yes, I know you, Rich. I've met you before. I said, Eric, you have not met me. I said, we have a lot of mutual friends. And I have been dying to meet one of you Trump guys, and I haven't been able to do it. Mark Geist was standing right next to him. He's one of the survivors of Benghazi. Do you know him?
No.
And so Mark's standing right next to him. Mark says, well, Rich had a gun shop over here in Wheat Ridge called Gunsmoke. And Eric goes, oh, my God. Our family, Don Jr. and I, we watched every one of your shows.
Oh, that's how he knew you.
Yeah, and he named his episode that he was one of his favorite. And he said, after this episode, we decided that you remind us of our dad. The way he raised us. Now, what a compliment that is, okay? And so if they got the guy as president, I'm going to do a good job. And I'm going to do the best I can for the Jefferson County Republican Party. Regardless of whatever happens in the state, we're going to make Jefferson County better. I hope the state succeeds, but they can't seem to leave Dave Williams alone. Just end it. He's gone. Walk past him. He got a job with the administration. He's done. Okay?
Right. It's over.
Yeah.
Move on.
Yeah, move on.
Yeah.
Don't be jealous. Don't be mad. You know, just move on. And so they won't. They keep targeting him. They keep coming after him. And it's aggravating to me. They make a big
It's
deal.
counterproductive at this point.
It's ridiculous. Yeah. And he left him with a big bankroll. He left him with a lot of money, you know. And, you know, they come out with a $2.4 million budget. They got $46,000. I've never budgeted $2.4 million when I got $46,000 in my life. Have you?
No.
Why would you? You don't have the money. If you want to make a budget, let me see you spend $46,000 and make it work. Okay? Right. I am not putting in for things until I got the money. I'm out there getting big donations. I've already gotten bigger donations than they've gotten in the last 6 years in Jefferson County. I've got people that have donated the maximum allowed by law to our party. None of the past chairs in the past 6 years have done that, according to our treasurer. And so we are moving forward. It's going to be positive. People didn't want to be part of the party. We're going to make it fun again to be a Republican.
That would be great.
That would be
And
great.
as far as your background goes, I got a quick story I want to tell you before we go.
Okay.
I was in Boulder working for a publisher of a newspaper there. Very successful man. The newspaper was something he put together on the side. Hugely successful man. And owned a big communication company. His name was Doug Green. And I worked for him for a couple of years. And I got pulled over by cops one day riding my bicycle to the office because I came off of the street and onto the sidewalk just before I got to the office. And they wanted to see a driver's license. And I didn't have one on me. Yeah. And I wouldn't give them a driver's license. So they call for backup. Pretty soon I'm surrounded by cops.
Wow.
by the time I get to the office, people have talked to the publisher and said, Wayne's out there with, all kinds of cops surrounding him. And I'm like, oh, this looks bad. This looks really bad. And I go back into the office and somebody said, yeah, we were talking to Doug about that. And he said, oh, Wayne, God, he could get arrested for getting up in the morning.
Yeah.
And I talked to him. I said, actually, I've never really been arrested. He goes, you've never spent a night in jail?
No.
I said, no. He goes, oh, that's unfortunate. I've just lost some respect for you. Frankly, Wayne, I've never known anyone who's really made something of himself who didn't at least do a night in jail.
Yeah.
Now, I do. I know a lot of people like that. But I thought it was kind of funny that was his perspective. He thought it would be a good thing if I had gotten in some mischief and been caught.
It kind of rounds you out, Wayne. You know, like you got a lot of things you can learn from everybody. And I got connections in the jail world, and I got connections in the political world, in the business world. I can go to have a free meal handed out at Civic Center Park and sit down with those guys on the lawn and get in just fine. Or I can go to Mar-a-Lago and sit down with the Trumps and have dinner, which I've done, and get along just fine. I can do either one. And that's part of the reason that these people elected me, because they know I'm going to do a good job. I'm successful. I've been successful in the past. I'm going to be successful again, and I'm on the way. And
you've lived a real life.
Real life. And I don't retract from it. I'm immovable. You're not changing me. You can do whatever you want to me. Until you kill me, you're not stopping me. And that's it. And I don't care. Whatever I got to do, whatever fight you want to bring me, I'll take the fight. I'll take the challenge. I'll meet it head on. I'm not going to lie to these people. I'm going to move in there. I'm going to do the best I can. Now, I will say this. I have one little difference from a lot of people. Some people in our party are what I call a cancer. And if you don't cut cancer out, it kills you. So I will be cutting some cancer out of our party because we have some people that need to go. They're an embarrassment and a disgrace. Okay.
Care to be specific?
I don't need to know their names, but they know who they are. Mm-hmm. And so I'm asking you.
I know you're not a huge fan of Lauren Boebert.
Lauren's not a cancer.
Okay.
I'm mad at her because of some things she did. I'm mad at her because she asks for help but doesn't ever help anybody else. And those are bad traits. I'd much rather have Lauren in there than anybody else. I'm talking about people that hurt our party. Mm-hmm. And the only reason I don't want to mention her name is I don't ever want to give them credit because then they become somebody.
How do they hurt the party?
They do things that damage us as a whole. They have no concept of reality, and they think they're the greatest people that ever walked on earth, and the party revolves around them. And so those people got to leave. When you do, look, let us do good. If you're doing good, you're in. I don't care what it is. I don't care what it is. If everybody could tomorrow, I'd ask everybody, Democrats, Republicans, Independents, go do something tomorrow for somebody you don't know and you're never going to see again, and can it benefit you? If you've never done that in your life, you haven't lived. And I just ask you to do it because giving is more important than taking. And we got a lot of takers. In politics, we got a lot of grifters. I had great joy, and I'm only saying this incentivizes somebody else to do it. Last night, I'm walking through Walmart at about 10 o'clock, and I see a young guy and his pregnant wife. And I walked over and said, "This your first baby?" And they said, "Yeah." I pulled out my money out of my pocket, and I gave them $100. Said, "Buy something nice for the baby, would you?" Walked away.
Felt good, I'll bet.
Man, I felt great. Mm-hmm. I could have bought a steak. I wouldn't have felt good, And they came back up to me later on, walking through and they started talking to me, and they said, "Hey, do you have any advice for me as a dad?" And man, we sat there and talked for a while. I never got their names. I don't want them to know me. I don't want them to, call me. I just want them to go have a nice time. And you know what? I don't know what that's going to do for them, but when I got out of prison, I was in that Walmart parking lot, and I was walking along, and a guy walked up to me and said, "You just got out of prison, didn't you? You're Rich Wyatt from American Guns." And I said, "Yeah." He said, "How's it going?" I said, "I'm going to get by." He opened up his pocket, came out with $100 and gave it to me.
Wow. I've got a story I have to tell in this context. I had just moved to Washington, D.C. as a young adult. I'm in my early 20s. Got a job editing a magazine, a national magazine. Was a managing editor there. And moving to Washington, I didn't realize how expensive it was going to be.
Oh, my goodness.
I was flat broke by the time I got a phone hooked up, an apartment, first and last month's rent, deposit, all of that stuff. And I'm looking at 3 weeks before I get a paycheck.
Yeah.
I've got no one to go to. There was no Venmo back then.
Right.
And I just really didn't know anybody who was going to be willing to just spring some cash for me.
Yeah.
I was young. All my associates were young. And I didn't want to call my parents for it. They had enough problems. And finally I call an ex-girlfriend who worked for Geico Insurance in a Maryland suburb. I'm on Capitol Hill. And she said, I tell her my plight, and she says, well, let's have lunch. I'll help you out a little bit. I can give you a few $100. At least I could eat.
Yeah.
You know. And so I had on me, this was all I had left. I had $5. And that's enough to get on the Metro subway in D.C. at the time and get to, I think it was Chevy Chase, but wherever it was in Maryland. And I'm walking to Union Station, and I don't know what the hell happened, but I get there, and there's a black fellow who's begging for money from people, and he asks me for money. I'm like, dude, I'm sorry, I barely got enough to get on the subway. And I'm like, wait a minute. Actually, where the hell did that go? I mean, I had it in my hand. I don't know where it went. It's just gone. I'm like, now I can't even get to Maryland to meet with the person who's going to lend me some money so I can eat today. And I'm looking around, and I ignore the guy who just asked me for money, and I'm looking all around, and you can tell I'm kind of frantic. He walks up to me, and he gives me a $10 bill. He says, I see that you're in distress. I've had a pretty good day. And he gave me a $10 bill.
Wow.
And that really changed me permanently.
You don't know what you can do for somebody else, and kindness is something that we have to have. I'm not telling you not to be fierce, but it's okay to be kind. And, I'm not telling you that, I could tell you a lot of stories about that open-handedness. And, of course, when I had money, it was much easier and it didn't really mean as much. But right now I don't have money. And so it was a big deal. And the joy that you get out of that is so great. The joy he got of giving you that $10 and knowing, you were okay.
I was worse off than him.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm in a suit. I'm dressed like $1 million because I'm a Washington professional. But I don't have a dime.
You can't tell a book by its cover. Mm-mm. And so, I just would ask, let's just leave it with this today, Wayne. If everybody today and tomorrow and the next day, every day, if somebody could just do one thing for somebody, and they don't even have to know it was you that did it, just go do it and help somebody else along the way, and just be godly, and just go give that up and do that, and that'll make you a happier person
and a wealthier person.
Oh, much wealthier.
Yeah. Hey, Rich, thank you for teaching me everything that I needed to know to keep myself and my family and everyone I care about safe many years ago. And I'm so glad to see you back on your feet after what you've been put through.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for traveling all this way to come to the WaynesWord studio.
Happy to do it.
Okay.
Well, just next time, can you send the WaynesWord jet to pick me up? Because I would like that.
I'm hoping to acquire that jet this year sometime.
Awesome. And then I'll come anytime.
And we're going to put WaynesWord right across it.
I love it. I love it.
All right. Hey, thank you so much, Rich.
Thank you so much,
Have a great rest of the day.
And it's
Safe
my
travels.
honor to have taught you and your family. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right,
Couldn't have learned from better.
Thank
All
you.
right.
Bye-bye.
See you later.